Welcome to NTD Newsroom. I'm Don Ma. President Trump hosting NYC's Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani at the Oval Office today. The highly anticipated meeting generating huge public interest and widespread social media buzz. Expected to address federal-city cooperation on housing, infrastructure, and public safety. The House of Representatives votes on a resolution to denounce socialism. The Republican lawmaker who introduced the resolution explains why. President Trump suggests he's giving Ukraine 6 days to accept a new U.S.-brokered peace deal. How Ukraine is responding to the fast-developing peace process. President Trump is lifting a 40% tariff on Brazilian food products, including on beef, coffee, and cocoa. Details on the new executive order and how the market reacts. An infant botulism outbreak has expanded to 15 states. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention says 31 children have been hospitalized.
This is NTD Newsroom, live from our global headquarters in New York City.
Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us today. President Donald Trump and New York City Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani are set to meet at the White House today. Here's what the press secretary had to say about the meeting.
It speaks volumes that tomorrow we have a communist coming to the White House because that's who the Democrat Party elected as the mayor of the largest city in the country. I think it's very telling, but I also think it speaks to the fact that President Trump is willing to meet with anyone and talk to anyone and to try to do what's right on behalf of the American people.
President Trump confirmed the meeting via a Truth Social post. Mamdani has already sparred publicly with Trump, who has threatened to reduce federal funding to the city. The mayor-elect described the meeting as customary at a press conference yesterday. He also said his team arranged the meeting. Mamdani and Trump are both from Queens and have spent months publicly criticizing each other. Trump has repeatedly called Mamdani a communist due to his professed affinity for democratic socialism and threatened to withhold federal funds from the city. That is, if Mamdani seeks to implement some of his campaign promises. Mamdani has attacked Trump's initiatives of his second term, including his effort to remove illegal immigrants from the United States. During an interview at the Brian Kilmeade show on Fox Radio this morning, President Trump says his meeting with Mamdani this afternoon will be open to the press. We'll bring it to you live. And the House of Representatives voted on a resolution today to denounce socialism. Lawmakers made the case against the political economic system. Florida Representative Maria Elvira Salazar introduced the resolution.
The reason why we're introducing this resolution is to condemn the horrors of socialism, and I'm presenting just the facts. And I invite my colleagues on the other side to vote to condemn this nefarious ideology. This has nothing to do with political parties. This is not a Democratic issue. This is not a Republican issue. This is a moral vote against an ideology that has destroyed millions and millions of families. Many of them, I served those families in District Number 27, the heart of the city of Miami, the heart of the Cuban exile community, and now the Venezuelan community, and murdered more than 100 million lives, besides crushing hundreds of thousands of other families and individuals. Unfortunately, socialism and Marxism crushes the human soul.
Salazar also took to X this week ahead of today's vote. The Republican posted in part, quote, "Socialism has never produced freedom or prosperity, only suffering and authoritarian control." The lawmaker added, quote, "With this failed ideology gaining ground in the United States and throughout the hemisphere, I'm proud to lead this resolution and call out its dangers without hesitation." The House approved the resolution by a vote of 285 to 98, with 2 lawmakers voting present. Global coffee prices plunged today after President Trump rolled back 40% tariffs on Brazilian food products after signing an executive order yesterday. Arabica coffee futures slumped more than 4% this morning to around $3.6 per pound. They were previously down more than 6%, a 2-month low. Trump cited various officials with whom he said advised him to lift the tariffs, in part because of progress in the U.S. has made in trade negotiations with Brazil. Here's more on this.
President Donald Trump on Thursday removed his 40% tariffs on Brazilian food products. That includes levies on beef, coffee, and fruits that were imposed in July. The order will affect Brazilian imports to the U.S. on or after November 13th and may also require a refund of duties collected on those goods while the tariffs were still being charged, according to the text of the order released by the White House. The move follows a similar order by the administration last Friday to remove tariffs on several agricultural products from other countries. Brazil has recently become an important supplier of beef to the U.S. and normally supplies a third of the coffee used in the country. Retail coffee prices in the U.S., the world's largest coffee drinker, rose as much as 40% this year due to the tariffs and other market factors. Brazil's President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva welcomed the removal of the tariffs.
Today, I am happy because President Trump has already begun to reduce some of the tariffs that had been imposed on certain Brazilian products.
The Congressional Budget Office now projects President Trump's global tariffs will save the U.S. $1 trillion less than previously estimated. The report shows changing tariff rates, especially changes involving China, India, the European Union, and Japan, are responsible for most of the downward revision. Even with the downgrade, the CBO says tariffs would still cut deficits by $2.5 trillion over 11 years and lower borrowing costs by another $500 billion. But the long-term future of Trump's tariffs authority now hinges on a Supreme Court case that could upend the policy altogether. And in an effort to lower rising energy costs, the Trump administration plans to open up oil drilling off the coasts of several states. This comes as Republicans in Congress are repealing several Biden-era policies. NTD's Melina Weisskopf reports.
Amid rising energy costs, Republicans are working to open up domestic production to lower costs. Yesterday, the Trump administration proposed the largest expansion of offshore oil drilling in decades. The plan is to open federal waters near California, Florida, and Alaska. It comes after lawmakers this week rolled back several Biden-era energy policies, putting Democrats and Republicans at odds.
And the entire world is talking about how to phase down our dependence on coal pollution and fossil fuel pollution. We are here in this alternate reality of the Republican majority.
Under the Biden administration, we were not allowed to access those important resources for the American people. In fact,
in the Senate yesterday, lawmakers repealed a Biden-era coal regulation in Wyoming.
Shuttering U.S. coal doesn't help the planet. It outsources pollution to the worst polluters on Earth and sends American jobs straight overseas.
The bill passed along party lines and is now awaiting President Trump's signature. Reporting from Washington, D.C., Melina Weisskopf, NTD News.
President Trump will meet with NYC Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani today. Joining us to discuss is Madeleine Somerville, Democratic strategist, speechwriter, and attorney. And we have Gerard Filitti, political strategist and attorney specializing in international law. So good afternoon to you both. Thank you for joining us today. If I may, Madeleine, I'll start with you today. Just to start off here, maybe you can speak to the significance of this meeting.
So I think this meeting is incredibly significant. First of all, it's traditional for the mayor of the largest city in the United States of America to go meet with the president. But politically, I think that this meeting is significant because it speaks, it bodes well for Mamdani either way. He wins either way. And what I mean by that is if he goes in to this meeting and comes out fighting, saying that, they couldn't get along no matter what they did, and he's going to keep fighting for New Yorkers, he wins. Right? Because the Democrats want that. If he comes out and he says, I have been able to find common ground with the president, then he legitimizes the Democratic Socialist Party because right now it's looked at as, a bunch of young kids who don't know what they're doing. They're struggling to their belief system apply to the biggest city in the country. But I think if he goes in there and is sensible and reasonable, which I believe that he will be, and they can actually work together to try to get something done, I think that he ends up legitimizing his entire party. So it's a win for him either way.
Okay, Gerard, Madeline says it's a win for Mamdani either way at the end of this meeting. Can you talk to us about how you view this meeting, its significance?
This is a meeting between the man who changed the face of the Republican Party and the man who's changing the face of the Democratic Party. So in a way, this is the president of the Republican Party versus the future of where the Democrats go from here. And both have revitalized and brought new voters into the fold and excited voters to propel them into office. What's really significant today is that there is such a clash of ideologies. And at the end of the day, the question is whether Zohran Mamdani can actually govern effectively and not just use slogans and speeches to propel himself to power. And that is what this meeting will show, whether Mamdani is serious as an elected official, whether he can transition from a candidate to an actual mayor, and whether he can govern. And Donald Trump is someone who has been very effective in the last 150 days, 200 days of office, of setting the agenda for the nation. And whether Mamdani can actually find common ground or not, there is so much opposition built into Mamdani even before he assumes the office that we need to see where to go from here, and today's meeting will be telling.
So, Madeline, earlier you talked about some of the objectives, perhaps, that Mamdani could have in mind going into this meeting. Can you go a bit deeper into that? Can you list us a few more goals for President Trump and Mamdani going into this meeting?
Yeah, so it's very interesting because I think President Trump, for lack of a better term, game recognizes game. Right. So I think what he will see is that Zohran Mamdani invented sort of this affordability, not that he invented the word, but he sort of coined it for the problem of our time, right? The political problem of our time. And I think he's obviously recognized that as a major thing, because I watched him dodge using that word during his McDonald's speech the other day. He was like, whatever the cost of living problem that we have is. And he's used it in different contexts to let people know it bugs him, right? But I think game recognizes game. So when you get in that room together and you realize, hey, this is what's actually bothering people, it ends up being a win for both of them if they can figure out something that makes it better, right? And that actually is what what politics should be. Is we have the same goal, we just have different ideas of what's going to work in order to get there. And I don't think that Trump is an ideologue. Right. I don't think that he's tied to any piece from the Republican Party. Right. He's taken 10% of Intel shares, or proceeds that come in. Right. He doesn't care whether it's a socialist thing or not. He doesn't care what the label it is that you put on it. He'll find a different label, just like Zohran Mamdani found a label. They know how to communicate with people. And I think that they will know how to put the for lack of a better word, complications, I guess, aside and work together on what actually matters.
So, Gerard, can you respond to that? Can you talk about President Trump's goals into this meeting in addition to Mamdani's?
I think President Trump's goals, in addition to Mamdani's, President Trump's goals are to ensure that his policies are implemented. And by that, I mean he has a focus on law and order and on the economy. He wants to improve both. He wants to make sure that immigration crackdowns are followed through in New York City. He wants to be sure that New York City is a safer place to live. And that means enforcing the laws, not substituting social workers for police officers. I think Donald Trump will see a push to regulate taxes, to make them lower, to make regulations less burdensome on businesses, which is the opposite of what Mamdani wants to do. So going into this, I think they have vastly different visions of how to achieve a better New York. Where they may find common ground is, ironically perhaps, with real estate development. I think both men see that there is a need for additional affordable housing units, and how you get there might very well be a benefit of incentivizing companies to build and going and eliminating a lot of the regulations that have been a red tape. But at a very basic level, the difference between these two men is staggering. One sees a free market economy as the way forward in improving affordability and the ability of people to live in New York. The other sees a socialized system where you tax the rich and give benefits to everyone that's simply not sustainable and has been historically shown to do damage to cities and economies.
Both you and Gerard have raised this issue of common ground numerous times now. So I want to follow up on that. What is the level of cooperation do you expect to see from the two? How much common ground really do they have, Madeline?
Yeah, so I think they have a tremendous amount, actually, of common ground. We talked about it in terms of their ability to communicate. We talked about it in terms of being able to be in tune with what they know the American people want, and that it serves both of their interests to, for example, make housing more affordable and easier to access. I agree with that. Most everything Gerard just said. I think that the potential problem area here, right, is that Trump likes for people to submit to him. He likes to be the big dog in the room, which is why appealing to his ego works, because if you are submissive to him, he likes that. And Mamdani is not a submissive kind of guy. I think he's very respectful in a way that anybody should be. But when it comes to Mr. President, you're this, Mr. President, you're so great, in a way that we've seen foreign dignitaries do, right? And Trump has reciprocated by saying, we may not agree on things, but I'm going to take great care of you. I don't know if we'll necessarily see that here, because even though they have a tremendous amount of common ground in terms of their policy goals, I think that in practice, if people don't submit in terms of their ego to President Trump, it complicates things quite a bit.
Okay, so Gerard, if the situation calls for some form of negotiation by the two parties, and I suspect probably there may be, what leverage does each side have? What cards does Trump have to play, and what cards does Mamdani have?
The biggest leverage that Trump has is that he is the person who can control whether or not there is increased federal enforcement of laws in New York City, whether or not the National Guard is deployed to city streets, whether money that's been appropriated by Congress is withheld or suspended from infrastructure projects, be it building tunnels or subway lines or anything having to do with universities in New York City, including state and city financed universities. So Trump really has a lot of leverage coming into this. Mamdani, on the other hand, has populist rhetoric. He has the way about him that is motivating and getting younger voters to the polls, and that's really making a significant change in the voting demographic in New York City. So on the one hand, Trump has real means to enforce his will, but Mamdani has the power of the populist voice that could really resonate well and change voters more into the direction of democratic socialists and to the left, that would really harm Trump's ability to carry out his policies on a national level if Mamdani becomes a spokesperson for the face of the resistance in all 50 states going forward. So each has a role here, but I think Trump does have more levers to pull when it comes to actually implementing change in New York City if he so chooses.
I think you're totally right about that. And I think that's a thing that people are missing. And the other thing that people are missing is that it's still a win for Mamdani if he comes out and shakes hands with President Trump, because again, it will legitimize the notion of the Democratic Socialist Party being a legitimate party in the United States.
Okay, Madeline, maybe you can continue this idea. If we're talking about negotiations, how do you think the conversation will go when they touch on the topics of affordability, immigration enforcement, and sanctuary city policies?
So I think they will go differently for different subjects that you just brought up. When it comes to affordability, I know I had mentioned that previously. I think that it's in both of their best interests to be pro-business, because people already think that Mamdani is not. So it will be in his best interest and in New York's best interest to work with Trump. I think Gerard's suggestion about housing was spot on. I think that is again, common ground that they can find there. However, when it comes to safety, right, these are the reasons why Mamdani ran in the first place, right? Which is, we don't think public safety is the way that it's structured, the way that our public safety system is structured in New York is the right way to do it. He wants a fundamental overhaul of it, right? The same thing with the National Guard being deployed or with immigration. He wants a straight up 180, 360 of everything. And he's not going to relent on those things. I think probably in Mamdani's head, like as a person who has integrity but ran on specific things, right? If he wants to come out a winner in this, all he has to do is maintain his integrity, right? Because the public is only going to hold you to what you said that you were going to maintain. And you can always surprise them, but you can't lose if that's what you do. So if he goes in and says, I'm not relenting on the National Guard, not relenting on changing how we police things, but if you want to figure out what manners to go about in terms of creating affordability in the city, I'm all ears, because it doesn't cost me anything. So I think he's going to have to make those kinds of decisions.
Okay, Gerard, similar question to you. How do you think this meeting could impact New York City's future?
I think this impact will show whether or not the next 4 years for New York City will be bogged down in lawsuits and lawfare by either the Republicans against the Democrat Mamdani or the Democrats against President Trump trying to bring in a National Guard or do other things. I think whether this meeting goes well and there's a productive way to move forward on common ground, like the economy, like housing, like affordability, or it will become bogged down in rhetoric and legal action about policing and law and order and national security. That's what really we need to watch for, because there can be cooperation, there even can be animus, but so long as we don't get bogged down in the political style of lawsuits that will bog the city down, there will be progress. So we really need to look for a sense of goodwill between these two men. Both are from Queens, both love New York, both have a vision for New York that's for the better, completely different in many respects, but if they can find a common ground to move forward together, we're going to see progress over the next 4 years. If on the other hand, there's no personal understanding between the two, we'll see 4 years of struggle, of lawsuits, and of indecision at the state and federal level about what works best.
Okay, we got to wrap up this conversation. I'll ask each of you one more question. Madeline, what do you make of the House? And we played this this report earlier. What do you make of the House passing a resolution to denounce socialism right before Mamdani's meeting with Trump?
Well, I think that your choice to play the Congresswoman from Venezuela's piece there was very interesting, because it sort of allows the Democrats to still touch on the problem of bombing the ships that were in the Caribbean waters, in my view, trying to ignite an armed conflict with Venezuela. But so I think part of it was political, right, in touching on that specific issue. And I think it's very interesting as an overall, because obviously we want to make sure that we as a whole, right, and they had almost total consensus, we all agree we're not going to be a socialist country. We all agree that even though the Democratic Party supports this democratic socialist, we are not going to be a socialist country. This is a variation of that. It's not the same thing. So I actually think it's incredibly helpful, because it helps people delineate, it helps the American public delineate in their minds, right, what is actually happening here. I think this was a great move for the Democrats specifically, so that they could say that's not what we're endorsing here. I think it's really smart.
Okay, Gerard, final thoughts.
More people have suffered under socialism and died in the pursuit of communism than any other ideology. It is inherently dangerous to humanity. It's a good thing that the House condemned it. This is not America. Right. This is not what we want. And just like we've seen radicalization and extremism on the right, we have to be wary of radicalization on the left that is pushing for these socialist ideas, that is pushing for radicalism in a way that is contrary to our democratic principles. So it's a good thing that the Congress did this, and we have to be wary and mindful of what happens in New York City and anywhere else. We want the best for this country, but we don't want to follow in the footsteps of failed nations.
Okay, well, good conversation today. Thank you both. Madeline, Gerard, pleasure.
Great questions. Thank you.
Coming up, X has recovered most of its user accounts after an outage with its web provider caused issues for tens of thousands. Stay tuned for more news after this break.
I'm Jonathan Lawson. If you're 50 to 85, please listen closely. The lock I want to talk to you about isn't the one on your door. It's a rate lock for your life insurance that guarantees that once you're insured, your rate can never go up at any time for any reason. Many policies you see don't have one, but you can get a lifetime rate lock from Colonial Penn. This plan was designed for people on a fixed income with coverage options that start at $9.95 a month. That's less than 35 cents a day. Your rate is locked in for life. Coverage can never be canceled, and your acceptance is guaranteed. You cannot be turned down because of your health. See for yourself. Call for an information kit and gift. Both are free with no obligation.
Call 1-800-624-6556 for your free information and your free gift. That's 1-800-624-6556. 1-800-624-6556. Call now.
Are you sitting at home living in pain? Maybe it's in your hands, maybe your back or your hips. The good news is you don't need to live in pain. Why? Because there is Omega XL, a one-of-a-kind, natural, powerful joint relief supplement created from the green-lip mussels of New Zealand. Drug-free, non-habit forming. It's small, easy to swallow, and it's backed by more than 40 years of clinical research. If you're experiencing daily aches and pains due to aging and overuse, try Omega XL. Just ask anybody who uses it. The results are undeniable.
I had a lot of joint pain, and that slowed me down.
I had considerable pain in my back.
Really felt the pain. I mean, in my ankles and in my heels.
I'm telling you about something that's gonna change your life. It has revived me.
This works.
I'm not a prisoner anymore to my pain.
As I was getting older, my joints started to feel that wear and tear. But then I tried Omega XL, and it changed my life. Today I'm here at my ranch exercising some of my polo ponies. So as you get older, it gets tougher. I was starting to suffer some of that business, and then I ran into somebody who said, look, you should try Omega XL. And look what it's done. I feel better than I felt in the last 30 years. And Omega XL gave me the ability to get back in the saddle. It works great. If you're in pain, I want you to know that there is real hope out there. I'm living proof. See the difference it can make in your life, just like it did in mine.
Call now or order online to receive our special TV offer. Buy one bottle of Omega XL and get a second free. Plus, we'll also include a free bottle of Vitamin XL D3. 2 free bottles for the price of 1 bottle of Omega XL. A total value of $115. You pay only $49.95 and it ships free. Plus, you get a money-back guarantee. Buy one, get 2 free. Call or go online right now.
Birthright citizenship is under scrutiny today. The Supreme Court will meet in private to discuss President Trump's order on the topic. The measure said kids born to parents who are in the country illegally or temporarily are not U.S. citizens. The justices could say as soon as Monday whether they will hear Trump's appeal of lower court rulings that have struck down the citizenship restrictions. They have not taken effect anywhere in the United States. If the court steps in now, the case would be argued in the spring with a definitive ruling expected by early summer. The 14th Amendment states all persons born or naturalized in the United States are subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States. The Trump administration argues that children of illegal immigrants are not subject to the jurisdiction of the United States as they are not there legally and therefore not entitled to citizenship. A federal judge yesterday ordered the Trump administration to end its National Guard deployment in Washington, D.C. The ruling won't take effect immediately as the judge put it on hold until December 11th to allow for an appeal. Here's more.
D.C. Attorney General Brian Schwab sued the administration over the deployment back in September, calling it a parallel police force. The Justice Department then asked to dismiss the case, saying the troops were not involved in arresting and charging people. As of now, more than 2,000 National Guard troops are still in the city. In response to the ruling, White House spokeswoman Abigail Jackson called the lawsuit, quote, another attempt at the detriment of D.C. residents to undermine the president's highly successful operations to stop violent crime in D.C.
The Treasury Department is moving against illegal immigrants getting tax credit benefits. It says new regulations are on the way. Here's more.
The new rules will cover the refunded portions of certain income tax credits, like the Earned Income Tax Credit or Additional Child Tax Credit. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said the Trump administration is enforcing the law and preventing illegal immigrants from claiming tax benefits intended for American citizens. The NYU Tax Law Center disagrees with the move. It says the tax code allows the child tax credit to be claimed for citizen children as long as at least one parent has a Social Security number.
A police officer at Lambert International Airport in St. Louis fatally shot a man wielding a knife early this morning. Authorities said the shooting took place outside the doors of a terminal. The rail line to Terminal 1 was briefly closed, with shuttles taking people from other drop-off points. The airport remained open. At St. Louis County Police spokesperson said officers had noticed a man in a restricted area who refused to leave. The spokesperson said the individual brandished a knife when they tried to get him to move. Police used tasers, but he continued to advance toward the officers. One of the officers shot and killed the individual when he refused to stop. Meanwhile, an infant botulism outbreak has expanded to 15 states. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention said 31 children have been hospitalized. Infant botulism occurs when babies ingest spores from a bacterium. The spores grow in the gut and make toxins. According to the Cleveland Clinic, symptoms include constipation, poor feeding, a loss of head and muscle control, lethargy, and a weak cry, among others. The CDC has advised parents of infants who consume the formula to seek immediate medical care if they exhibit symptoms. Texas has the highest number of infections at 6, followed by California with 4, and Oregon and Arizona with 3. Washington, Minnesota, Illinois, and North Carolina reported 2 infections each. Idaho, Michigan, Kentucky, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Rhode Island, and Maine had 1 each. The CDC linked the outbreak to infant formula produced by manufacturer ByHeart. The company has voluntarily recalled the affected products. And advocacy groups are warning parents to steer clear of AI-powered toys this holiday season. They say the gadgets can expose young children to serious risks. Here's more.
Children's advocacy group Fair Play says many toys use the same advanced chatbots that have already shown they can engage kids in harmful or inappropriate conversations. One plush AI bear has been pulled from the market after researchers found it discussed sexually explicit topics and even gave potentially dangerous advice to children. A report published last week found the bear suggested where to find knives in the home and was quick to discuss sexually explicit topics in graphic detail. Advocates warn young children are especially vulnerable because their brains are being wired for the first time and they naturally trust kind and friendly characters. The company behind the recalled bear Fuller toy says it has withdrawn all of its AI toys and is now conducting a safety audit. But experts say that's far from a systematic fix. Their advice: buy your kids traditional toys that help children practice imagination, language, and problem solving without AI doing the thinking for them.
Most X users can once again sign into their accounts and post. This comes after a major outage at web infrastructure company Cloudflare. At last check, there were less than 500 reports of issues with the platform. This is based on user-submitted data to downdetector.com. This is a big drop from a height of 20,000 reports earlier in the day. This week, a file crashed Cloudflare's systems that handles web traffic. This prevented users from accessing platforms like X, Canva, and ChatGPT. Cloudflare has since fully restored its services, and issues reported to Down Detector for Cloudflare are also down to about 150. President Trump suggests he's giving Ukraine 6 days to accept a new U.S.-brokered peace deal. How Ukraine is responding to the fast-developing peace process. Stay tuned for more news after this break.
When I arrived in the U.S. at 19, I struggled to find job opportunities without a high school diploma. My name is Ariel, and my entire life changed when I took a chance and I got my high school diploma at age 22. Everything I have, my education, my career, my marriage, I owe to the Adult Literacy Center and my teachers. They were with me every step of the way, helping with my English and math, making sure I pushed through all the challenges. Oh my goodness.
So Ariel, we made this here just for you. Has notes from other people that are here. Your achievement has set an example for so many students. Most importantly, your daughter.
Education was the key that unlocked all my opportunities.
When you graduate, they graduate. Visit finishyourdiploma.org to find free and supportive adult education centers near you.
I debate all day. It's what I do. But there are some things that are undebatable. Like your mental health, my own mental health. I was in a dark place when my brother passed away in a car accident. I've never been more devastated than the day I lost my mom. I was depressed, miserable, in ways I never imagined. I reached out, and my sisters came, my pastor, my therapist. They helped me get through it. I found that the more I spoke up, the healthier my mind became. The chaos that was in me began to subside. I was more focused, clear. When you love your mind, you can go so much further. That's not up for debate. Find mental health resources at loveyourmindtoday.org.
President Trump welcoming NYC's mayor-elect, self-described Democratic socialist Zohran Mamdani to the White House today. This as the House passes a resolution condemning what it calls the horrors of socialism. The vote taking place shortly after Mamdani touched down at Ronald Reagan Washington National Airport ahead of his afternoon sit-down with the president. We now go live to NTD's Washington correspondent Mari Otsu, who's standing by at the White House. Mari, good afternoon to you. What can we expect from this conversation, and what have Mamdani and the president have been saying about each other leading up to this meeting?
Don, good afternoon. Yes, this is certainly a highly anticipated meeting, and it will be their first time ever sitting down with each other. Analysts don't know exactly what to expect, whether this will be a calm conversation or whether it will turn potentially combustible. Mamdani has cooled off his rhetoric recently, but he's previously accused President Trump of being an authoritarian and, quote, attacking the very fabric of this democracy. He also framed much of his mayoral campaign as a battle cry against President Trump, calling himself Donald Trump's worst nightmare. Take a look.
The best way to respond to Donald Trump and to defeat these kinds of threats is to actually stand up and fight back.
Because the Donald Trumps of our city have grown far too comfortable taking advantage of their tenants. We will put an end to the culture of corruption that has allowed billionaires like Trump to evade taxation and exploit tax breaks. We can respond to oligarchy and authoritarianism with the strength it fears, not the appeasement it craves. After all, if anyone can show a nation betrayed by Donald Trump how to defeat him, it is the city that gave rise to him. And if there is any way to terrify a despot, it is by dismantling the very conditions that allowed him to accumulate power. This is not only how we stop Trump, it's how we stop the next one. So Donald Trump, since I know you're watching, I have 4 words for you. Turn the volume up.
Mamdani and President Trump are from diametrically opposed philosophies. Mamdani, a self-described democratic socialist who President Trump calls a communist, which is a label that Mamdani has repeatedly rejected. Mamdani's campaign promises include free public buses, universal child care, increasing New York City's minimum wage to $30 by 2030, and city-run grocery stores. President Trump, a native New Yorker, has called those policies crazy, but says that he does want to see everything work out for New York. And Mamdani on Thursday softened his tone just a day before his sit-down with the president, saying that he requested this meeting and is not concerned about it, framing it instead as an opportunity for him to, quote, make his case. Take a look.
I have many disagreements with the president, and I believe that we should be relentless and pursue all avenues and all meetings that could make our city affordable for every single New Yorker. I intend to make it clear to President Trump that I will work with him on any agenda that benefits New Yorkers.
This meeting is coming as the House passes a Republican-led resolution to denounce what it calls the horrors of socialism. The vote, which passed 285 to 98, is coming just after Mamdani touched down in Washington ahead of his meeting. And this bill echoes a proclamation that President Trump issued earlier this month, declaring the week of the off-year elections in which Mamdani won anti-communist week, saying that terms like social justice and democratic socialism cloak what he calls the same evil doctrine of communism, which has only brought ruin throughout history. And while President Trump has called Mamdani his, quote, little communist, the president says that he wants to see Mamdani succeed for the sake of New York City. Take a look.
Speaks volumes that tomorrow we have a communist coming to the White House, because that's who the Democrat Party elected as the mayor of the largest city in the country.
He's got a different philosophy. He's a little bit different. I give him a lot of credit for the run. He did a successful run, and we all know that runs are not easy. But I think we'll get along fine. Look, we're looking for the same thing. We want to make New York strong. And I don't know exactly what he means by turn the volume up, because turn the volume up, he has to be careful when he says that to me. I mean, he was very nice in calling, as you know, and we're going to have a meeting. I guess we meet at 3 o'clock today, and I think it's going to be quite civil.
Mamdani and President Trump are expected to talk affordability, economic security, and public safety, with Mamdani noting that it is only customary for the incoming mayor of New York City to meet with the president. But it remains to be seen whether the meeting will result in further federal city cooperation and what this might mean for New York City's federal funding going forward. Don, back to you.
Okay, Mari, thank you. President Trump suggests he's giving Ukraine 6 days to accept a new U.S.-brokered peace deal. The agreement would include concessions from Ukraine giving up territory currently occupied by Russia. NTD's international correspondent Arian Pastor has the latest on the fast-developing peace process.
President Trump suggesting Thanksgiving is the deadline for Ukraine to accept an American-brokered peace deal. Trump was on the Brian Kilmeade show on Friday, talking about the issue.
So is next Thursday the deadline that you gave, a loose deadline for Ukraine?
Well, we have, I've had a lot of deadlines, but if things are working well, you tend to extend the deadlines. But Thursday is, we think, an appropriate time.
A Ukrainian lawmaker and the Associated Press published a 28-point proposal. If agreed to, Ukraine would receive firm security guarantees, while its still armed forces would be capped at 600,000. The country would formally pledge to not join NATO. In return, NATO would codify that it will never admit Ukraine or station troops there. It also outlines territorial agreements recognizing Crimea, Luhansk and Donetsk as de facto Russia. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky issuing a stern warning on Friday, suggesting that ending the conflict will come at a cost in any of the current scenarios.
Now Ukraine may find itself facing a very difficult choice, either the loss of dignity or the risk of losing a key partner, either the difficult 28 points or an extremely difficult winter, the most difficult, and further risks.
Zelensky also announced that he spoke with Vice President J.D. Vance on Friday, saying, "We managed to cover a lot of the details of the American side's proposal for ending the war, and we're working to make the path forward dignified and truly effective." Russian President Vladimir Putin says the U.S. plan could be the basis of a resolution of the conflict. But he added that if Kiev turns down the proposal, then Russian forces will advance further. Arian Pastar, NTD News.
France's top general Fabien Madon ignites a political row after warning citizens may face sacrifices if Russia tests NATO. Analysts argue the threat is exaggerated while Europe watches closely as the U.S. pressures Kyiv on a peace deal. NTD international correspondent David Vivez reports from Paris.
To prepare citizens for the possibility of future conflict with Russia. His message was blunt. France, he said, must be ready to accept suffering, shift its economy toward defense production, and even face the risk of losing its children if Moscow challenges NATO. Mamdani, appointed earlier this year, had already told Parliament that France must be ready within 3 or 4 years for a possible shock involving Russia. But the uproar highlights deep divisions inside France over how real the threat actually is. This reaction follows other measures that have raised public questions, such as the government's plan to distribute a 72-hour survival kit by the end of the year. According to President of Centers for European Studies Rodrigo Ballester, this aligns with previous stances from both France and the EU, which have been warning about the threat Russia poses to Europe.
It's the rhetoric of some countries in the West, notably Macron, for example, Mark Rutte, who is the Secretary General of NATO, that there is a risk of Russian invasion on Western Europe and in Europe in general. I think this is total nonsense. I mean, we can see that the Russians are already struggling in Ukraine. It's shocking to see that France is overplaying the Russian threat. It doesn't make sense, again, to call for these Russian threats, to overplay this Russian threat when actually there are other threats in the European Union that are much more real.
Meanwhile, European leaders are concerned as Washington pressures Kiev to accept a peace deal requiring the Donbass and major military cuts, which many in the EU view as near capitulation. EU Commission President Ursula von der Leyen said today that the US plan must be made with Ukraine and Europe. President Volodymyr Zelensky warns Ukrainians that the coming days could be one of the most difficult moments since the invasion began. He says he's ready for honest work with the United States, but will not accept terms that undermine Ukraine's dignity, sovereignty, or territorial integrity. David Vives, NTD News, Paris.
Missouri is ramping up efforts to seize China-owned properties in the U.S. The state is seeking help from the Trump administration to collect a $25 billion court judgment tied to the COVID pandemic. It's one that Beijing refused to recognize. NTD's Tiffany Meyer has the report.
According to Missouri's Attorney General on Wednesday, the state is asking the U.S. State Department to let Beijing know that it plans to pursue Chinese-owned assets. Her office is putting together a list of targets, focusing on properties entirely or partially owned by the Chinese regime on American soil. Missouri's lawsuit accuses China of hoarding personal protective equipment, including masks, medical gowns, and gloves during the early stages of COVID-19. This hoarding caused widespread harm to Americans, including deaths. The lawsuit also adds that China harmed Missouri and its residents by driving up the cost of health care and emergency response. A federal judge initially dismissed the lawsuit in 2022, saying Missouri couldn't sue China. But an appeals court later revived one part of the case, the allegation that Beijing hoarded protective equipment. When Chinese officials didn't respond, the judge accepted Missouri's damage estimate of more than $8 billion and tripled it under federal law. He then added nearly 4% interest, bringing the total to roughly $25 billion. China's Foreign Affairs Ministry says its actions during the pandemic aren't subject to U.S. law and does not recognize the ruling.
Meanwhile, another state has successfully sued China over COVID-19. In May, Mississippi won its $200 billion lawsuit, and now the big question is how the state plans to collect the money. Black Friday is almost here. We hear from an expert on shopping trends for tips on saving money and what scams to avoid after this break.
If you're out there and you're watching this message, we need your help. And we need it now. This is a typical day at the outpatient department. Every day we see very many cases of children with severe pneumonia. All these children need to be seen, and they all need to be seen today. This is baby Priscilla. She's 7 months old. When a child has pneumonia, you really need to move quick. This is like an infection in the baby's lungs. It really hurts for this child to be breathing. It feels like someone is squeezing your chest. If Priscilla doesn't get antibiotic treatment, it could lead to death.
We need your support right now to help save children's lives like Priscilla's. Please call or go online to givetosave.org and give just $10 a month, only 33 cents a day. You can help us provide life-saving medicines, food, and essentials to children in the most need.
The problem we have is we simply do not have enough medicine. It's very heartbreaking to see a child suffer like this.
Please help children like Priscilla before it's too late. All we need are 1,000 monthly donors. Please call or go online with your monthly gift of just $10, only 33 cents a day. Your donation today can help secure additional grants, which can multiply the impact of your support up to 10 times. And when you call with your credit card, we will send you this Save the Children tote bag as a thank you for your support.
With your help, we can save more lives. So please help us.
Your small monthly donation of just $10 could be the reason a child survives. Please call or go online to givetosave.org to help save lives.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me.
They're just young people, hungry, homeless, and vulnerable. Covenant House is helping young adults facing homelessness. We're providing safe shelter to thousands, but the need is overwhelming. Please call or go online now. With your gift of $19 a month, we'll send you this blanket as a reminder of the comfort your gift provides a young person tonight. You'll provide safe shelter, hot meals, and medical care. Call the number on your screen or go online to safeplacetosleep.org.
A recent report says younger adults are now the most common targets of Black Friday scams. Scammers are using social media and messaging apps to reach Gen Z and millennials. Experts say that Black Friday has become one of the riskiest times for scams. Shoppers are encouraged to be extra careful during the holiday season. New AI tools allowed fraudsters to copy real voices and writing styles. These realistic messages make fake offers much harder to recognize. One of the best ways to stay safe is to visit retailer websites directly. Avoid clicking on links sent through emails, texts, or social media ads. Be cautious if a message tries to rush you or create a sense of urgency. Extremely low prices can be a sign that the deal is fake. Paying with a credit card offers better fraud protection than a debit card. Digital wallets can also add another layer of security. And avoid shopping on public Wi-Fi. Using strong passwords as well and two-factor authentication helps protect accounts. The holiday season is upon us, and once again, Macy's flagship store in New York City has been transformed inside and out. NTD Sean Marshall was at the Macy's store for more.
Hey, Merry Christmas, and welcome to the North Pole.
So I got a sneak peek of Santaland, and we have Santa here ahead of the public, most of the public.
Well, hello, it's Sean, right?
It is Sean. I can't believe you knew my name.
I remember when you were little.
Interesting.
Are you excited about Christmas?
Of course I'm excited.
We all are. I want all of the boys and girls to come to see me. We know that if you want to see Santa, come to Macy's, right?
But we'll come back to Old St. Nick and the sneak preview of Santaland, New York City in a bit. Because Thursday afternoon was the unveiling of the world-famous Macy's Christmas Windows display. People packed into Herald Square in Midtown Manhattan for a Macy's tradition. And NTD got to speak with the display designer.
Well, it really started with the theme, and our theme this year is the most wonderful stories start here. And what better way to show the most wonderful stories that started in Macy's than to celebrate them within our windows. So we have the time periods of our first, starting from our first interior Santa, our first holiday windows, our first Thanksgiving parade, and so on.
A couple of windows are interactive, making the display fun and entertaining for the public. Any surprises in any of the windows?
I think every window is a little different. So when you see it, All these windows are hand illustrated, so they're all hand drawn. All the line work that you see here took hundreds and hundreds of hours in each window to do. So, I mean, as you take a look at the detail, everything is done by hand.
So this is Wally, our walrus. We're trying to get him ready to work in the mailroom. He's been a little slobbery and a couple punctures with the tusks, but overall doing a lot better than yesterday. So making progress, Wally. Yeah, don't give me that look.
Santa has been visiting Macy's since the 1860s, giving children and adults a chance to experience the holiday spirit. Santa is very popular, so you'll have to make a reservation to visit him at select Macy's locations.
So Macy's Santaland has been a part of the tradition here at Macy's since 1861, and we're so excited to invite families back again this holiday season, starting on Friday, November 28th through December 24th. You can come and see us in this magical land right here at Macy's. Make your reservation at Macys.com/holiday celebrations and come meet Santa Claus.
And are there any insider tips for kids or grown-ups coming in here?
I think the best tip is make your reservation in advance. So reservations open up throughout the holiday season 6 days in advance of your visit. We open up reservations bright and early in the morning, so 6:30 a.m. local time. You can log on to Macys.com/holiday celebrations to make that reservation for your group to come and make sure that they have a spot to meet Santa himself.
Luckily, I didn't have to make a reservation. It seems Santa already knew NTD was coming to Santaland.
Do you have a special Christmas wish? Because Christmas is not just for the children, it's for everybody, Sean. What would you like?
Why, I didn't think about that. I guess I'd probably wish for NTD News to be the #1 news company.
That's a good wish.
Sean Marshall, NTD News.
All right, we'll see if that wish comes true, Sean. Next, a trip through New York City's crowded subway system usually offers a pungent mix of odors, but along one platform inside Grand Central Terminal this holiday season, the air might smell of vanilla and fresh pine. Bath & Body Works is using a new advertising campaign to share a scent. The fragrance is being released on the 42nd Street Shuttle train platform through November. It estimates that 20 to 30 pounds of fragrance will be dispersed by the end of the month when the campaign ends. The Metropolitan Transportation Authority said this is the first ad campaign like this in the transit system. They hope it will help bring in more revenue. The retail store's chief marketing officer said that the retail chain chose fresh balsam for the campaign. It's one of the brand's most iconic holiday scents and a long-running seasonal favorite. President Trump is scheduled to have a meeting with New York City Mayor-elect Mamdani in the Oval Office. We'll bring it to you live, so stay with us.
According to ancient Chinese medicine, purslane is considered a medicinal herb and is used to help lower cholesterol, improve vascular functions, and prevent diabetes. Perilla seeds can nourish the lungs and spleen. It is used to treat asthma and improve pulmonary functions. Puritang green vegetable omega-3 is made from purslane and perilla seeds from Hwangmae Mountain in South Korea. It contains over 90% of omega-3, 6, 7, and 9, the highest concentration possible without chemical additives. The soft gel is made of natural seaweed. It is 100% organic and vegan. Both adults and children can take it with peace of mind. Ancient recipes were passed down from heaven to bring prosperity and longevity. Puritang green vegetable omega-3.
I'm excited to announce that we're having our biggest 3-in-1 sale ever with a limited edition product, a back in stock special, and a closeout deal you won't find anywhere else. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to get our MyPillow bed sheets only $29.88. Any color, any style, any size, even kings, regular $119.98, only $29.88. Once they're gone for good. How about our My Towels? They're finally back in stock, but not for long. Get a 6-piece My Towel set, regular $69.98, now only $39.98. And for the first time and the only time ever, get our limited edition premium My Pillows. They're made with Giza cotton and designer gusset. Queen $17.98, Kings only $19.98. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to get the best offers ever. Quantities are extremely limited, so order now.
What are toxins? How do they get into our bodies? We are constantly being exposed to toxins in our environment. I have had detox protocol programs in my clinic more than 20 years, helping countless people. MixFix is a custom formulated, full-spectrum organic detox product to achieve better health and overall function. Detoxifying your body 3 to 4 times per year may be the single most important thing you can do. Just scan the QR code and detox your body today.
Welcome to NTD Newsroom. I'm Don Ma. President Trump hosting NYC's Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani in the Oval Office today. The highly anticipated meeting generating huge public interest and widespread social media buzz. It's expected to address federal-city cooperation on housing, infrastructure, and public safety. The House passed a resolution denouncing socialism today, just ahead of the self-described Democratic Socialist Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani's visit to the White House. More on the heated debate from members of Congress. Republicans want to reform the Affordable Care Act to lower its cost to the American people. Democrats want to expand its subsidies as they stand, but Congress has till mid-December to figure out a plan to see healthcare costs increase. Missouri ramping up efforts to seize Chinese-owned assets on American soil. The state is trying to collect $25 billion over COVID-19 damages. An infant botulism outbreak has expanded to 15 states. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention says 31 children have been hospitalized. President Trump suggests he's giving Ukraine 6 days to accept a new U.S.-brokered peace deal. How Ukraine is responding to the fast-developing peace process.
This is NTD Newsroom, live from our global headquarters in New York City.
Thank you for staying with us. President Trump welcoming NYC's mayor-elect, self-described Democratic Socialist Zohran Mamdani to the White House today. This as the House passes a resolution condemning what it calls the horrors of socialism. The vote taking place shortly after Mamdani touched down at Ronald Reagan Washington National Airport ahead of his afternoon showdown, or rather sit down with the president. NTD's Washington correspondent Mari Otsu brings us more from the White House.
This is certainly a highly anticipated meeting, and it will be their first time ever sitting down with each other. Analysts don't know exactly what to expect, whether this will be a calm conversation or whether it will turn potentially combustible. Mamdani has cooled off his rhetoric recently, but he's previously accused President Trump of being an authoritarian and, quote, attacking the very fabric of this democracy. He also framed much of his mayoral campaign as a battle cry against President Trump, calling himself Donald Trump's worst nightmare. Take a look.
The best way to respond to Donald Trump and to defeat these kinds of threats is to actually stand up and fight back.
Because the Donald Trumps of our city have grown far too comfortable taking advantage of their tenants. We will put an end to the culture of corruption that has allowed billionaires like Trump to evade taxation and exploit tax breaks. We can respond to oligarchy and authoritarianism with the strength it fears, not the appeasement it craves. After all, if anyone can show a nation betrayed by Donald Trump how to defeat him, it is the city that gave rise to him. And if there is any way to terrify a despot, it is by dismantling the very conditions that allowed him to accumulate power. This is not only how we stop Trump, it's how we stop the next one. So Donald Trump, since I know you're watching, I have 4 words for you. Turn the volume up.
Mamdani and President Trump are from diametrically opposed philosophies. Mamdani, a self-described democratic socialist who President Trump calls a communist, which is a label that Mamdani has repeatedly rejected. Mamdani's campaign promises include free public buses, universal child care, increasing New York City's minimum wage to $30 by 2030, and city-run grocery stores. President Trump, a native New Yorker, has called those policies crazy, but says that he does want to see everything work out for New York. And Mamdani on Thursday softened his tone just a day before his sit-down with the president, saying that he requested this meeting and is not concerned about it, framing it instead as an opportunity for him to, quote, make his case. Take a look.
I have many disagreements with the president, and I believe that we should be relentless and pursue all avenues and all meetings that could make our city affordable for every single New Yorker. I intend to make it clear to President Trump that I will work with him on any agenda that benefits New Yorkers.
This meeting is coming as the House passes a Republican-led resolution to denounce what it calls the horrors of socialism. The vote, which passed 285 to 98, is coming just after Mamdani touched down in Washington ahead of his meeting. And this bill echoes a proclamation that President Trump issued earlier this month, declaring the week of the off-year elections in which Mamdani won anti-communist week, saying that terms like social justice and democratic socialism cloak what he calls the same evil doctrine of communism, which has only brought ruin throughout history. And while President Trump has called Mamdani his, quote, little communist, the president says that he wants to see Mamdani succeed for the sake of New York City. Take a look.
Speaks volumes that tomorrow we have a communist coming to the White House, because that's who the Democrat Party elected as the mayor of the largest city in the country.
He's got a different philosophy. He's a little bit different. I give him a lot of credit for the run. He did a successful run, and we all know that runs are not easy. But I think we'll get along fine. Look, we're looking for the same thing. We want to make New York strong. And I don't know exactly what he means by turn the volume up, because turn the volume up, he has to be careful when he says that to me. I mean, he was very nice in calling, as you know, and we're going to have a meeting. I guess we meet at 3 o'clock today, and I think it's going to be quite civil.
Mamdani and President Trump are expected to talk affordability, economic security, and public safety, with Mamdani noting that it is only customary for the incoming mayor of New York City to meet with the president. But it remains to be seen whether the meeting will result in further federal city cooperation and what this might mean for New York City's federal funding going forward. Don, back to you.
Okay, Mari, thank you. The White House said U.S. taxpayers could see an extra $1,000 in their tax refunds next year. Joining us to discuss is public policy analyst and economist Michael Busler, who's a professor of finance at Stockton University. So, Michael, good afternoon to you, and thank you for joining us today. The White House said that the increase in tax refunds are expected to give taxpayers total an additional $91 billion in refunds. So, to start off, is that significant in economic terms?
It is. And if it turns out to be about $1,000 per household, that will help out significantly. Now, it's not a huge amount of money, but right now, most people are concerned with affordability and even buying some of the basics. The extra $1,000 will certainly help them, and it'll also spur economic activity. Again, it's not a huge amount of money, but it's enough to increase demand in the marketplace and keep the economy growing. All of this is a result of the bill that was passed back in July, where the tax cuts that were originally passed in 2017 and implemented in 2018 were set to expire at the end of this year. Congress and then the president signed, passed an extension which makes these lower tax rates permanent. And it also gave some tax cuts to some specific classes, like people who work in the hospitality industry, who collect a lot of their income in tips, people that work overtime. And as an incentive to get people to work overtime, he eliminated taxes on any overtime, which is a big boost, because when you work overtime, you typically get time and a half. Why most people may have been reluctant to do that was it puts them in a higher tax bracket. So while they may on paper look like they're getting time and a half, they were really coming home with much less than that. Since there's no tax on it at all, this will encourage people to work harder and to work more. Also, Social Security income based on some income limits will no longer be taxed. That will certainly help people who rely on Social Security as their sole means of support. Right now, or prior to the law, about 85% of Social Security payments were taxed. That will now be eliminated, and that will help the people on Social Security and also tend to be a little bit of a push for the economy. All good.
So, Michael, you said about this refund, it could spur activity in the economy. Can I just ask you, what are we exactly looking at here? What impact could it have on consumer spending and overall growth?
So most of the people receiving the benefit from lower taxes will end up spending almost all of it. And when that happens, that creates more consumer spending. Consumer spending accounts for about 70% of GDP. So by increasing consumer spending, you'll tend to grow the economy. People will buy more things. Business will make more things to meet that new demand. It also has what economists refer to as a multiplying effect. Consumers spend the money, business gets the money, they make income, they reinvest the money, create more goods and services, and it has kind of a multiplying effect on the economy. Again, not a huge amount of money, but combined with the Trump administration's other pro-growth policies, this should tend to accelerate economic growth. Because the government was shut down, we're not sure what economic growth was for the third quarter. I suspect it was at least 3%. The fourth quarter would likely have been higher, except about half of the fourth quarter, the government was shut down, and that has a negative impact. But going into 2026, most of what President Trump has been doing, lowering regulations, making it easier for business to expand, attracting trillions of dollars in foreign investment, that should lead to more growth next year. And the extra tax refund for people will also tend to help with that.
You know what's funny, Michael? Whenever I hear consumers getting money and spending all of it, it gives me flashbacks to the stimulus checks during the pandemic. I mean, let me just ask you a little bit about this issue. Does a larger refund potentially have upwards pressure on inflation currently?
So one of the fears is that if consumer spending goes up faster than businesses' ability to produce more output, that will be inflationary. But because President Trump, in the big bill passed in July, gave some incentives for business to invest and expand, traditionally, when you make an investment, you depreciate it over some number of years, depending on what the investment is. President Trump said you can write the whole investment off in the first year, reducing tax bills for business and encouraging business to make an investment. So although the tax cuts will increase demand, there's incentives now with supply side tax cuts for business to increase output. And I don't expect any upward pressure on price from this. And I do expect more of an increase in output. So this is a good thing. We don't know what he's going to do. Trump also proposed a $2,000 rebate check for everybody from the tax revenue that's been collected. I'm not sure whether that's going to go through or not, but that too will help to stimulate demand. I expect next year to be a high growth year for the economy.
So, Michael, this tax refund, I mean, Where does the money come from? Does this mean that a reduction in tax revenue for the federal government because the government is collecting less money from taxpayers?
Yes. So if households are paying less taxes, then the government will collect less. However, Trump says that even with the less tax revenue from given the from the lower tax rates, the higher economic growth will create more income. So even though we're taxing at a lower rate, we're taxing a larger amount of income, and you should still see tax revenue increased. After every tax cut, total tax revenue increased after that. Even though the rates were lower, economic growth was greater, creating more income, more taxable income, and an increase in tax revenue. You might take a look at what Reagan did in 1982 with his tax cuts. Still, tax revenue went up, and the tax cut went into effect in 1982. 1984, the economy grew at a 7.4% rate. So with that high growth, creating more income, even though the tax rates are lower, tax revenue will go up. This administration is very concerned about the deficit and the public debt, and they want to do what they can to get that down, mostly by decreasing government spending. But President Trump feels every household feels that their taxes are too high. So by keeping the tax rates lower and giving them more money to spend, it should give people even a better feeling and more comfortable. You start to see consumer confidence, which has dipped recently. You'll start to see that go up next year too, as people feel more confident about the economy.
So just finally, you're saying that there's no concern in your mind that with this higher tax refund that potentially the federal government could take on more debt. There's no concern in your mind about that?
No, the lower tax rates, we said, will probably reduce revenue by $91 billion, but he's already collected $395 billion from tariffs. And if economic growth increases, as I suspect it will, total tax revenue will increase, not decrease. This is a very positive thing. Lower tax rates always encourage more economic activity. And as long as there's supply side cuts too, which there were, that will increase economic growth and provide a higher standard of living for all Americans.
Well, all right, Michael. Always great to speak with you. Thank you for your time today. Have a great weekend.
Always my pleasure. Thank you.
Congress has until mid-December to come up with a proposal to address the COVID-era Affordable Care Act expiring subsidies. But there is yet a formal bill to consider. Our Washington correspondent, Luis Eduardo Martinez, has more.
Lawmakers have left the Capitol for the Thanksgiving holidays without congressional leadership being set on a specific proposal to address the expiring Affordable Care Act healthcare subsidies. The Trump administration has made it a center focus for the administration for the coming weeks.
Promising the president is laser focused on this. It's the main thing I talk with them about. Congress as well is all over this. We have got to find solutions that don't just work at the end of this year, but work for years to come. And I do want to come back to this theme. We have ideas that will also drop the actual cost of care by putting downward pressure on what we're paying for medications. And that's probably a very good example.
Republican Senator Rick Scott from Florida proposed a bill to make the ACA subsidies a direct payment to consumers for them to choose their health care instead of having the government pay insurance companies directly.
We're not going to repeal Obamacare. We're going to fix Obamacare. You know, I'm not suggesting we change the structure because I think we can drive down the cost by giving people options. We do it in everything. We've done it in everything else. But you do have to protect pre-existing conditions.
A bipartisan group of lawmakers in the House of Representatives have proposed a bill to extend the ACA subsidies for 2 years while also phasing out subsidies to families making more than $200,000 a year.
We're looking at all the options on the table. We want to bring down costs. I'm not sure throwing more money at a bad broken system is the solution. And if there was going to be an extension of the subsidies, there'd have to be very serious reforms on it because it is not doing the job these people from works.
But House Democratic leadership is pushing for a 3-year clean extension of the ACA subsidies, a proposal that even moderate Republicans call dead on arrival.
You want to get something that has actually done, you need to do something that will have bipartisanship.
You can ask me the question. You can ask me the question. I'll provide the answer.
Answer the question instead of going back.
I'll provide the answer. No. I'm providing an answer in order to provide context.
It's important context to make me realize that I don't think you want to get a deal done. I think this is something where you'd like to see the rates go higher and allow the Republicans to hang themselves with that. Is that the answer?
That's absolutely a ridiculous assertion. And really, shame
3 years is not going to get passed. So what do you do?
Shame on you for saying that.
Senate Republicans have promised to hold a vote on an ACA subsidies bill before mid-December. That gives lawmakers around 2 weeks to reach an agreement on a bill before the subsidies expire at the end of the year. Reporting from Washington, D.C., Luis Eduardo Martinez, NTD News.
And the House of Representatives voted on a resolution today to denounce socialism. Lawmakers made the case against the political economic system. Florida Representative Maria Elvira Salazar introduced the resolution.
The reason why we're introducing this resolution is to condemn the horrors of socialism, and I'm presenting just the facts. And I invite my colleagues on the other side to vote to condemn this nefarious ideology. This has nothing to do with political parties. This is not a Democratic issue. This is not a Republican issue. This is a moral vote against an ideology that has destroyed millions and millions of families. Many of them, I serve those families in District Number 27, the heart of the city of Miami, the heart of the Cuban exile community, and now the Venezuelan community, and murdered more than 100 million lives, besides crushing hundreds of thousands of other families and individuals. Unfortunately, socialism and Marxism crushes the human soul.
Salazar also took to X this week ahead of today's vote. The Republican posted in part, quote, "Socialism has never produced freedom or prosperity, only suffering and authoritarian control." The lawmaker added, quote, "With this failed ideology gaining ground in the United States and throughout the hemisphere, I'm proud to lead this resolution and call out its dangers without hesitation." The House approved the resolution by a vote of 285 to 98, with 2 lawmakers voting present. An infant botulism outbreak has expanded to 15 states. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention says 31 children have been hospitalized. Missouri ramping up efforts to seize Chinese-owned assets on American soil. The state is trying to collect $25 billion over COVID-19 damages. We have more news after this break.
Being a cowboy, I don't know anything different from when I was 3 or 4 years old. I did tough things. I thought everybody needed to do tough things, and if you didn't, I didn't have time for it. I had a very successful career at a very young age, and life was fast. I was preparing physically. I wasn't doing anything mentally on the inside. And then I got hurt. I wanted to be better as a person, and I really dug into mental health. I start my day with 20-minute workouts. I live life 8 seconds at a time. Horses are so therapeutic. They know what you're feeling. When you're nervous, they're nervous. He won't say it back, but we're pals. I take a lot of responsibility in taking care of my kids, my family, being there for them. You're gonna have tough days. Everybody does. Find a place to stop and just breathe. Love your mind.
All throughout your home, appliances and systems just wait for the worst time to break down and leave you with expensive repairs. Unless you have a plan from Choice Home Warranty.
All home appliances and systems have a breakdown clock, and when it expires, it will cost hundreds and potentially even thousands of dollars to fix or replace. That's why every homeowner should have a plan with Choice Home Warranty, like I do. For a low monthly fee, a Choice Home Warranty plan will cover your heating, air conditioning, plumbing, appliances, and more. Don't let an unexpected repair wreck your budget. With Choice Home Warranty, that covered repair is fixed or replaced for you.
Choice Home Warranty has been a great company to work with.
and they've taken care of us. I would suggest anybody who lives in a home not to be in a home without him.
Avoid the ticking clock of home appliances and systems breaking down with a plan from Choice Home Warranty. Call now to get your first month free. Call in the next 10 minutes and we'll give you $120 off your first year of coverage. That's $200 in total savings.
With a nationwide network of over 25,000 technicians, I don't worry about how my next breakdown will be handled. With a click of a button, my claim is filed, and Choice Home Warranty starts the clock. They do the legwork, hiring the right technician and handling the cost of covered repairs and replacements. And check this out. For a limited time, you can get 1 month of coverage free. Did you hear me? Free. You can't beat that deal with a sledgehammer. But hurry, this offer is ticking away. Once the clock hits 0, poof, it's gone.
Don't fear the breakdown clock. Get a plan from Choice Home Warranty and get round-the-clock money-saving protection you can count on. Call in the next 10 minutes and we'll give you $120 off your first year of coverage, plus get your first month free. This offer won't last long.
Get your home protected. Call now.
Don't wait for an appliance or system to break down. Call before that happens. Call 800-983-3523. 800-983-3523.
An infant botulism outbreak has expanded to 15 states. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention said 31 children have been hospitalized. Infant botulism occurs when babies ingest spores from a bacterium. The spores grow in the gut and make toxins. According to the Cleveland Clinic, symptoms include constipation, poor feeding, a loss of head and muscle control, lethargy, and a weak cry, among others. The CDC has advised parents of infants who consume the formula to seek immediate medical care if they exhibit symptoms. Texas has the highest number of infections at 6, followed by California with 4 and Oregon and Arizona with 3. Washington, Minnesota, Illinois, and North Carolina reported 2 infections each. Idaho, Michigan, Kentucky, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Rhode Island, and Maine each had 1. The CDC linked the outbreak to an infant formula product manufactured by ByHeart. The company has voluntarily recalled the affected products. And in an effort to lower rising energy costs, the Trump administration plans to open up oil drilling off the coasts of several states. This comes as Republicans in Congress are repealing several Biden-era policies. NTD's Melina Weisskopf reports.
Amid rising energy costs, Republicans are working to open up domestic production to lower costs. Yesterday, the Trump administration proposed the largest expansion of offshore oil drilling in decades. The plan is to open federal waters near California, Florida, and Alaska. It comes after lawmakers this week rolled back several Biden-era energy policies, putting Democrats and Republicans at odds.
And the entire world is talking about how to phase down our dependence on coal pollution and fossil fuel pollution. We are here in this alternate reality of the Republican majority.
Under the Biden administration, we were not allowed to access those important resources for the American people. In fact,
in the Senate yesterday, lawmakers repealed a Biden-era coal regulation in Wyoming.
Shuttering U.S. coal doesn't help the planet. It outsources pollution to the worst polluters on Earth and sends American jobs straight overseas.
The bill passed along party lines and is now awaiting President Trump's signature. Reporting from Washington, D.C., Melina Weisskopf, NTD News.
Missouri is ramping up efforts to seize China-owned properties in the U.S. The state is seeking help from the Trump administration to collect a $25 billion court judgment tied to the COVID pandemic. It's one that Beijing refused to recognize. NTD's Tiffany Meyer has the report.
According to Missouri's Attorney General on Wednesday, the state is asking the U.S. State Department to let Beijing know that it plans to pursue Chinese-owned assets. Her office is putting together a list of targets, focusing on properties entirely or partially owned by the Chinese regime on American soil. Missouri's lawsuit accuses China of hoarding personal protective equipment, including masks, medical gowns, and gloves during the early stages of COVID-19. This hoarding caused widespread harm to Americans, including deaths. The lawsuit also adds that China harmed Missouri and its residents by driving up the cost of health care and emergency response. A federal judge initially dismissed the lawsuit in 2022, saying Missouri couldn't sue China. But an appeals court later revived one part of the case, the allegation that Beijing hoarded protective equipment. When Chinese officials didn't respond, the judge accepted Missouri's damage estimate of more than $8 billion and tripled it under federal law. He then added nearly 4% interest, bringing the total to roughly $25 billion. China's Foreign Affairs Ministry says its actions during the pandemic aren't subject to U.S. law and does not recognize the ruling.
Meanwhile, another state has successfully sued China over COVID-19. In May, Mississippi won its $200 billion lawsuit, and now the big question is how the state plans to collect the money. New details are emerging about the deadly UPS cargo plane crash earlier this month. Federal investigators have released new images showing how the jet lost its left engine seconds after takeoff from Louisville. Here's the story.
The National Transportation Safety Board has released a preliminary report on the crash at Louisville Muhammad Ali International Airport on November 4th. It details the moments before an engine detached from the wing on UPS Flight 2976 during takeoff. According to the report, surveillance footage confirms the McDonnell Douglas's left engine and pylon broke away just as the plane was taking off. This ignited a fire in the engine, which spread across the aircraft's wing. A former NTSB investigator explains what happened.
The first image shows the airplane basically under a normal condition. Engines are in their proper position. Airplane is rotated into a climb attitude. The subsequent frames show the engine starting to separate from the left side. That separation, the motor mount broke, and unfortunately the engine propelled itself over the top of the left wing, created a fireball.
Radio altitude data shows the aircraft reached no more than 30 feet off the ground before striking buildings just outside the airport perimeter. 14 people were killed, 3 UPS crew members, and 11 people on the ground, with more than 20 others injured. Early examinations showed fatigue cracking in the left engine's aft pylon mount, a critical point where the engine attaches to the wing. The NTSB Materials Lab later confirmed multiple fracture points.
The NTSB is focusing on the engine pylon. That is what mates the engine to the wing itself. And they're looking at the aft portion of that engine pylon where fatigue cracks were identified, but it also can incorporate the forward portion of that engine pylon. So they'll be looking to determine whether or not those fatigue cracks were an isolated event or they have basically the basis for a systemic problem.
Investigators noted the plane had not yet flown enough cycles to warrant special detailed inspections of that particular part, which might have revealed a problem. UPS and FedEx grounded their entire MD-11 fleet in the days after the crash. The Federal Aviation Administration also issued directives that temporarily grounded the MD-11 and another plane with a similar design. The NTSB also noted similarities to the 1979 American Airlines Flight 191 disaster, where the same type of structural failure caused a deadly crash in Chicago. The agency says its investigation into the crash is still ongoing.
U.S. Congressman from California Eric Swalwell is running for governor in 2026. He revealed the news yesterday during an appearance on Jimmy Kimmel Live. The longtime critic of President Trump says California needs a fighter and protector, pointing to his background as a prosecutor. He said the next governor must keep Trump out of Californians' lives while focusing on lowering prices and boosting business growth. Swalwell joins a crowded field of high-profile Democrats and Republicans vying to replace Governor Gavin Newsom, who is term limited. The 2025 LA Auto Show is officially underway in downtown Los Angeles, showcasing some of the year's most anticipated vehicle debut. NTD's Christina Corona takes us inside for an exclusive look.
We're here at the 2025 LA Auto Show at the Los Angeles Convention Center, where visitors can see hundreds of new cars and the latest innovative auto tech from manufacturers around the world. Several vehicles are making their North American debut, including the 2027 Kia Telluride and Hyundai's all-new Ioniq 6N, which features advanced engineering, cutting-edge software, and a bold new design.
The 6N's dual motor all-wheel drive powertrain, it delivers up to 641 horsepower boost mode and good for 0 to 60 under 3.2 seconds and a top speed of 160 miles per hour.
Hyundai also unveiled its Crater SUV concept. It's a rugged, compact model blending Hyundai's signature design with off-road capability similar to the Jeep Wrangler, Ford Bronco, and GMC Hummer. Visitors can also take part in on-site test drives. NTD got behind the wheel for an exclusive ride in the newest Jeep Wrangler Rubicon X.
Also, we can see the whole way over. Once we start to go up here, can't see a lot over the hood. We're in full low, so using the four-wheel drive system, using traction over momentum. The tyres really gripping on the metal grate, so giving us loads of traction as we go up. Lots of power from the engine. Over the crevasse, need to stay nice and level across this. So I'm using the yellow guides on the screen to help me line up. Make sure we go right down the middle. Don't want to slide into the bottom.
We even got to experience what the Hyundai Ioniq 5N feels like by testing it out virtually, part of a special collaboration with Gran Turismo from the PlayStation franchise. Ford is also showcasing its 2026 Mustang RTR.
This actually has technology from all of the best of the best from Ford, Le Mans winning Ford GT. It's got anti-lag technology. From the Ford GT on a Mustang EcoBoost, it has Dark Horse suspension and Dark Horse componentry from our Dark Horse feature car.
Ford brand manager Ryan Shaughnessy says the Mustang RTR is equipped with top-tier performance gear, unique styling, and technology inspired by Ford's Le Mans winning GT.
And it's got GT Performance Pack content standard, so the raised rear wing spoiler, the big Brembo brakes, you got to get some footage of that, and the Hyperline, and the 30mm wheel offset, and that's why it has such an aggressive look.
The LA Auto Show will run from November 21st through the 30th. For the next 10 days, visitors can explore hundreds of new cars, compare features, and even place pre-orders on site. Reporting from the 2025 LA Auto Show in Los Angeles, Christina Corona, NTD News.
President Trump is giving Ukraine 6 days to accept a new U.S. brokered peace deal. How Ukraine is responding to the fast-developing peace process. Find out more after this break.
I was a quarterback at Hardaway High School, college first-round draft pick. On and off the field, we were taught to not show any signs of weakness. During the football season, I would stop eating, but I didn't know I was depressed. I thought that something was wrong with me. For 20 plus years was physical. We didn't have any education behind what mental health was. I started to learn it starts here first. If this is together, I'll be better as a father, as a man, and as a husband. Put the importance on your mental health. I'm not scared to talk about it anymore. The first tool is therapy. The second one is positive self-talk. And then journaling, putting your thoughts on paper. We have to redefine what being a strong man is and heal, love your mind.
You see certain things get reincarnated in your children. My daughter is very much inspired by my wife's artistic pursuits. So my daughter started making necklaces. She makes what we call affirmation fashion. I tell her every day that your black is beautiful. Your black is beautiful. Your black is beautiful. And if there's anything better than being beautiful, it's being smart. And if there's anything better than being smart, it's being kind. And reaffirming that every day is our method of making sure her chin never drops. My dad wasn't around, and I remember riding a bike and falling off and cutting myself, and me never just wanting to get back on it. People ask, how your children learn how to ride a bike, and you didn't. I didn't teach them. I just created an environment where they taught themselves, and all I had to do was be there.
I am so glad you ladies are here. You each have your own rooms. Thank you. Get settled in. I'll call you for dinner. Adopting teen sisters, it's a lot. Girls, you're gonna be late. You want breakfast? No thanks, we're good. They're always in their own world. What'd you get there? Twice the work. Twice the surprises. Just try it. But if you think of it that way, they're also twice as fulfilling.
I think you should ask her yourself. Is
Is it okay to call you Mom?
Of course you can.
President Trump is meeting with New York City Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani at the Oval Office. Let's have a look.
Food and prices, and the price of oil is coming way down. Anything I do is going to be good for New York. If I can get prices down, it's good for New York. And we've got them down, way down from last year. We have, as you know, I've been saying to a lot of people, Walmart said that Thanksgiving this year is exactly 25% less than last year. So that's good for New York, good for everybody. But I just want to congratulate. I think you're going to have, hopefully, a really great mayor. The better he does, the happier I am, I will say. There's no difference in party. There's no difference in anything. And we're going to be helping him to make everybody's dream come true, having a strong and very safe New York. And congratulations, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Please.
I appreciated the meeting with the president, and as he said, it was a productive meeting focused on a place of shared admiration and love, which is New York City, and the need to deliver affordability to New Yorkers, the 8.5 million people who call our city their home, who are struggling to afford life in the most expensive city in the United States of America. We spoke about rent, we spoke about groceries, we spoke about utilities, we spoke about the different ways in which people are being pushed out, and I appreciated the time with the president, I appreciated the conversation. I look forward to working together to deliver that affordability for New Yorkers.
Thank you very much. Any questions, please?
President Trump, Stephen Nelson from the New York Post. I've got a question for you and then also one for Mayor-elect.
Sure.
For you, you referred to Mr. Mamdani as a communist. Can you describe why you feel that way? And also, will you do anything to stop him from arresting Prime Minister Netanyahu if he visits New York?
Well, we didn't discuss your second part of the question, and on your first part, I mean, he's got views that are a little out there, but who knows? I mean, we're going to see what works, or he's going to change also. We all change. I changed a lot. From when I first came to office. It's now quite a while ago. It's quite a while. My first term was great. We had the greatest economy in the history of our country. We're doing even better now. We're doing much better now than we did even the first term. And I can tell you some of my views have changed. And we had discussions on some things. I'm not going to discuss what they were, but that I feel very confident that he can do a very good job. I think he's going to be. I think he is going to surprise some conservative people, actually, and some very liberal people. He won't surprise them because they already like him.
And Mr. Mamdani, it sounds like you had a productive discussion, but just days ago you referred to President Trump as a despot who had betrayed the country. You said you would be his worst nightmare and accused him of having a fascist agenda. Are you planning to retract any of these remarks in order to improve your relationship?
I think both President Trump and I, we are very clear about our positions and our views, and what I really appreciate about the president is that the meeting that we had focused not on places of disagreement, which there are many, and also focused on the shared purpose that we have in serving New Yorkers. And frankly, that is something that could transform the lives of the 8.5 million people who are currently struggling under a cost of living crisis, with 1 in 4 living in poverty. And the meeting came back again and again to what it could look like to lift those New Yorkers out of struggle and start to deliver them a city that they could do more than just struggle to afford it, but actually start to live in it.
I mean, I've been called much worse than a despot, so it's not that insulting. Maybe I think he'll change his mind after we get to working together. Yes, please.
Mr. President, Anthony Mershak from MTV Lebanon.
Good.
I would like to ask you a question about the Middle East regarding you said that Hezbollah in Lebanon is not in a good position, and Lebanon now is the final unresolved after Gaza and Syria. Given your assessment, like what do you say for the Lebanese today? It's the independent state in Lebanon, and what is your next move to push toward disarmament? The disarmament
Sure.
of Hezbollah.
Well, we are pushing for total disarmament of Hamas and, frankly, everybody else. And we actually have peace in the Middle East. As you know, the King of Saudi Arabia just left yesterday. We had some great meetings, and he's made a contribution toward the United States of more than $1 trillion. We have now over $20 trillion coming in. No country has ever had anything like that, not even close. If you go to 2 trillion or 1 trillion, it's a lot. We have 20 or 21 trillion dollars. I think that Hezbollah has been a problem in Lebanon, big problem. We're working with Lebanon. We're working with everybody in the Middle East. That's another thing I think we have in common. We want to see peace in the Middle East. And we actually have now, for the first time, peace in the Middle East after 3,000 years. And now we're going to refine it. And I think you're going to see some very positive things happen.
There is a potential to invite the Lebanese president
Oh,
to
sure.
meet you to the White House.
I would do that, absolutely. And if the mayor would like to be here for that meeting, because I know he feels very strongly. I think you feel very, very strongly about peace in the Middle East. I think it's,
We desperately want it, and that's something that I shared with the president, that when I spoke to New Yorkers who had voted for the president last November on Hillside Avenue and Fordham Road, I asked them why. I heard again and again two major reasons. One was that they wanted an end to forever wars. They wanted an end to the taxpayer dollars we had funding violations of human rights, and they wanted to address the cost of living crisis. And I appreciated the chance to discuss both of those things.
he said a lot of my voters actually voted for him, and I'm,
1 in 10.
And I'm okay with that.
As well.
I'll do that. I'll sign it. Give it to me. I'll sign it in a minute. That's pretty good.
Mr. President, Mr. President, you've threatened to send federal troops to New York City. You both have differences when it comes to ICE agents in New York City. Mr. Mamdani, you've called ICE a rogue government entity. I wonder how you reconcile your differences on both of those issues.
Well, I think we're going to work them out, and I think that if we have known murderers and known drug dealers and some very bad people, you know, we want to get them out. And the mayor wants to have peace. We discussed this at great length, actually, maybe more than anything else. He wants to have a safe New York. Ultimately, a safe New York is going to be a great New York. If it's not safe, no matter how well we do with pricing and with anything else, we can talk about anything you want. If you don't have safe streets, it's not going to be a success. So we're going to work together. We're going to make sure that if there are horrible people there, we want to get them out. I think he wants to get them out maybe more than I do. So we'll work together. We discussed it at great length. Yes, please.
Yeah, two questions, if I may. One for you, Mr. President, on the BBC in a second. But first of all, for the mayor-elect. You're both from different parts of the political spectrum. You're both populists, though, and I just wonder to what extent the president's campaign style, his techniques, his social media use inspired any part of your campaign.
Well, I actually told the president that, you know, so much of the focus of our campaign has been on the cost of living crisis. And when we asked those New Yorkers who had voted for the president, when we saw an increase in his numbers in New York City, that came back to the same issue: cost of living, cost of living, cost of living. And they spoke about the cost of groceries, the cost of rent, the cost of Con Ed, the cost of childcare. And too often politicians are looking to lecture to New Yorkers what they should care about as opposed to listen. And when we spoke to those voters who voted for President Trump, we heard them speak about cost of living. We focus on that same cost of living, and that's where I am really looking forward to delivering for New Yorkers in partnership with the president on the affordability agenda.
I think we have to work a little bit. We talked about Con Edison. We have to work a little bit on getting the prices, because, you know, we've gotten fuel prices way down, but it hasn't shown up in Con Edison. And we're going to have to talk to them. You know, if we're sending them fuel at a much lower price than it was a year ago, which is true, we have to get Con Edison to start lowering their rates.
Absolutely.
And if I may, last week you told me you were pushing ahead with your plans to sue the BBC for up to $5 billion. You're going to speak to Prime Minister Starmer as well. Is there any progress or any updates on those issues?
Well, we get along very well with the Prime Minister. We made a deal with UK. I like him. He's a fine person. And, you know, I think they have some big energy problems. You know, they've got windmills all over the place. They're going to have to start using other methods because their energy is out of control. Talking about in the UK, it's out of control. And he's got that problem. He's got a big immigration problem, as you know, and he's got a big energy problem. And we talk about it. He's a good man. Prime Minister's a good man.
You had a chance to speak this week.
I haven't spoken this week.
Mr. President, have you spoken to President Zelensky, or do you intend to meet with him, President Zelensky, about your plan? Are you going to meet with him?
I've spoken with their people. We have a plan. It's horrible what's happening. It's a war that should have never happened. It would have never happened if I was president, and it's a shame. And I thought they should have acted quicker. But it's a cold winter, and a lot of the you talk about utilities, but a lot of the big energy-producing plants have been under attack, to put it mildly, to put it nicely. Yeah, we have a way of getting peace, or we think we have a way of getting peace. He's going to have to approve it. Just so sad, so many people. You know, last month they lost 25,000 soldiers. This is something, we haven't seen anything like this since the Second World War. And they're averaging 6,000 or 7,000 a week between the two of them, dead soldiers. And it goes on, and I think they're getting reasonably close, but I don't want to predict. I would have said that would have been one of my early ones. I did 8 peace deals of countries, including in India, Pakistan. You could even go, in fact, they're coming here in a week or two, go to the Congo and Rwanda. That was 10 million people dead, and we worked something out on that, but so many. And the one I thought would have been, for me, because I have a very good relationship with President Putin, I thought that would have been maybe quicker, but it does take 2 to tango. And now you just see all the death. And, you know, it doesn't affect us other than the fact that we don't want to see all those people that really, it's on the other side of the ocean. It's a war that should have never happened. It did happen. I blame the person also sitting right behind this desk. This is a war that should have never happened, and it wouldn't have happened if I were president. But we're trying to save a lot of lives. They're losing 25, think of that, 25,000 lives over the last short period of time. That's Ukrainian and Russian, and it's a shame.
I want to ask the mayor-elect about a House resolution. It just passed overwhelmingly to condemn socialism, including with 86 Democrats, all of House Dem leadership, and the minority leader, Hakeem Jeffries, despite his endorsement of you. What's your reaction to that?
I have to be honest with you, I focused very little on resolutions. Frankly, I've been focusing...
Condemn socialism.
I understand. I think the focus is on the work at hand. I can tell you I am someone who is a democratic socialist. I've been very open about that. And I know there might be differences about ideology, but the place of agreement is the work that needs to be done to make New York City affordable. That's what I look forward to.
And I want to clarify your answer to Stephen Nelson. He asked about your comment calling the president a fascist, and your answer was, both President Trump and I have been clear about our positions and our views. Are you affirming that you think President Trump is a fascist?
I've spoken about...
That's okay, you can just say yes. Okay. It's easier. It's easier than explaining it. I don't mind.
Mr. President, I wanted to ask you also about this Ukraine plan.
Yeah.
President Zelensky said today that his country would risk either giving up a partner or giving up its dignity. There's been criticism that this deal proposal...
You mean he doesn't like it?
It's unclear. He was sort of tenuous about it.
He'll have to like it, and if he doesn't like it, then, you know, they should just keep fighting, I guess.
The suggestion that he made, though, was that if he doesn't accept it, that the U.S. would pull back its support for Ukraine. Is that
Well, at
accurate?
some point he's going to have to accept something. You know, he hasn't accepted. You remember right in the Oval Office not so long ago, I said, you don't have the cards. Don't forget, I inherited this war. I would have never, this war never would have happened. I inherited this war. And I thought he should have made a deal a year ago, 2 years ago. The ultimate deal would have been if it never started. That would have been the good deal. That could have been done too if you had the right president, but you didn't have the right president.
Mr. President, the cost of living is something that you and Mr. Mamdani seem to agree on. Democrats have run New York City for a long time, Mr. Mamdani. Do you see Democrat policy specifically as being a problem? And I'd like that be a question that both of you could answer in New York City.
Look, I think that there are many things in our city where we have to own the responsibility of it, things that existed long before the president was the president. And those are also part of the message of our campaign, was to take on a broken politics of the past. And I ran against a number of candidates who represented different versions of that past. And what we found time and again is that working people were left behind in the politics of our city. And what we're looking to do is put those people right back at the heart of our politics so that we don't have a situation where we're in the wealthiest city in the history of the world, and yet 1 in 5 can't even afford $2.90 for a Metro card.
Mr. President, you know, we had some interesting conversation, and some of his ideas really have the same ideas that I have. But a big thing on cost, you know, the new word is affordability. Another word is just groceries. You know, it's sort of an old-fashioned word, but it's very accurate. And they're coming down high. They were, you know, we had, both of us, we had the highest inflation in the history of our country the last 4 years under the Biden administration. And we've got inflation down now to a normal number. It's going to go even a little bit lower than that. Katie, do you have something?
Mr. President, thank you so much. Mr. Mamdani often talks about New York City being covered by international law, that they will follow international law. doesn't often talk about the U.S. Constitution. What is your response to that?
Well, I don't know what you're referring to in terms it could be covered by international law, local law. It's covered by a lot of laws, but it's covered by U.S. law. Are you referring to anything in particular?
He just says that they're a city that endorses and enforces international law. Is that at odds with
No,
U.S.
I don't
law?
know. Would you want to respond?
Yeah, I think what I've shared with the president is our desire to not only follow the laws of our own city, laws that protect New Yorkers, but also a desire for consistency in our politics across the board. And that's something that we've talked about and something that I know many New Yorkers want.
We work with ICE. We work with ICE then?
We discussed ICE and New York City, and I spoke about how the laws that we have in New York City allow for New York City government to speak to the federal administration for about 170 serious crimes. The concerns that many New Yorkers have are around the enforcement of immigration laws on New Yorkers across the 5 boroughs, and most recently we're talking about a mother and her 2 children, how this has very little to do with what that is.
Mr. Mamdani,
What we did is we discussed crime. More than ICE per se, we discussed crime. And he doesn't want to see crime, and I don't want to see crime. And I have very little doubt that we're not going to get along on that issue. He wants to, and he said some things that were very interesting as to housing construction, and he wants to see houses go up. He wants to see a lot of houses created, a lot of apartments built, etc. And you know, we actually people would be shocked, but I want to see the same thing.
Mr. Mamdani, anti-Israel protesters.
Jack?
Yeah, Mr. President, I wanted to know one of the policies as well that Mayor-elect Mamdani talked a number of times about on the campaign was shifting the tax burden for property taxes from what he called minority communities to white-based communities and putting more taxes on white people. I also noticed that in your acceptance speech you didn't mention anything about America or Christians or white people in general, and so I didn't know if that was one of the policies that you guys had spoken about.
We focused on affordability. We focused on the cost of living crisis. What I will say is that I am very much interested in property tax reform because what we see right now in New York City is a system that is so inequitable that it can't even stand up in court. And the president and I spoke about the importance of not only building more housing, but also making sure that regulation of housing is something that is manageable to actually get through and not the cause of yet another weight that we see in our
But to
city.
be clear, you're continuing this idea of race-based property taxes.
No, to be very clear,
That's what you said.
No,
Yes, it is.
the use of the term was a description of neighborhoods, not a description of intent.
So you intend to tax the whiter neighborhoods more?
No, we intend to create a fair property tax system because we want a New York City that is not only fair and equitable, but also one that every New Yorker can afford.
Mr. Mamdani, anti-Israel protesters Mr. Mamdani, anti-Israel protesters just targeted a synagogue in New York. Are you concerned about Jewish New Yorkers feeling welcome and safe in the city? And President Trump, you've threatened to cut off federal funding to New York City. What policies would prompt you to do that? Would that be city-run grocery stores? Would it be something else?
Well, I think if we didn't get along, whether it's cut off or just make it a little bit difficult or not give as much, we want to see, I use the term, we don't want good money going after bad. And we don't want that to happen. I don't think that's going to happen. I did say that, subject to what policies are being set. We had a meeting today that actually surprised me. He wants to see no crime. He wants to see housing being built. He wants to see rents coming down, all things that I agree with. Now, we may disagree how we get there. The rent coming down, I think one of the things I really gleaned very much today, he'd like to see him come down, ideally, by building a lot of additional housing.
Yeah.
That's the ultimate way. He agrees with that, and so do I. But if I read the newspapers and the stories, I don't hear that. But I heard him say it today, and I think that's a very positive step. No, I don't expect. I expect to be helping him, not hurting him. A big help, because I want New York City to be great. Look, I love New York City. It's where I come from. I spent a lot of years there. Now I'm right here. We took a big setback with the mayor that we had, named de Blasio. I thought it was a tremendous setback for the city. I think this mayor can do some things that are going to be really great.
Mr. President, Mr. President, how about you? Thank you, Mr. President. You're a billionaire. You have a different address nowadays than you used to, but you used to call New York City home. Would you feel comfortable living in New York City under a Mamdani administration?
Yeah, I would. I really would. Especially after the meeting. Absolutely.
What makes you comfortable?
we agree on a lot more than I would have thought. I think I want him to do a great job, and we'll help him do a great job. You know, he may have different views, but in many ways, you know, we were discussing when Bernie Sanders was out of the race, I picked up a lot of his votes, and people had no idea because he was strong on not getting ripped off in trade and lots of the things that I've practiced and been very successful on. Tariffs, a lot of things. Bernie Sanders and I agreed on much more than people thought. And when he was put out of the race, I think quite unfairly, if you want to know the truth, many of the Bernie Sanders voters voted for me. And I felt very comfortable, frankly, in seeing that and saying that. And, you know, it just turned out to be a statistical truth. But no, I feel very comfortable. I would feel very, very comfortable being in New York, and I think much more so after the meeting. Yes, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have a question for you, but a very quick one for the mayor. Why did you fly here? Aren't trains greener?
I'll use every form of transit, and I want to make sure that they're all affordable in New York City, and that's why making buses fast and free is a centerpiece of our campaign.
There is a bus that goes.
Well, I know, but if you flew, that's a lot quicker too. You know,
Your time
he's
is
working very hard, and for him to be, that's a very long drive. I'll stick up for you. You know, the plane takes you 30 minutes, and driving takes you a
And
long
Mr.
time.
President, I was wondering if you could clear up some confusion around a Washington Post report. There was this explosive report that the Coast Guard is no longer going to characterize swastikas and nooses as hate symbols. DHS called that a lie and fake news. Can you clear up?
I don't know anything about it. When was this written?
I think yesterday.
Well, look, the Coast Guard's an incredible group of people. I know them very well. We just ordered a lot of new Coast Guard cutters, beautiful, the most magnificent ship. They look like yachts with lots of guns on them. So I don't know, I haven't seen any report like that, but certainly we want them to remain a great force, and they are.
Mr. President, peacemaker, and you did the peace in all the 9 months around the world. I would like to ask Mr. Mamdani, you've accused the U.S. government of committing genocide in Gaza while President Trump was working on peace. Why that?
I've spoken about the Israeli government committing genocide, and I've spoken about our government funding it. And I shared with the president in our meeting about the concern that many New Yorkers have of wanting their tax dollars to go towards the benefit of New Yorkers and their ability to afford basic dignity. And what we see right now is we're in the 9th consecutive year of more than 100,000 school children being homeless in our city. And there's a desperate need not only for the following of human rights, but also the following through on the promises we've made New Yorkers. And I appreciated the meeting we had and the work that we can do.
Do you agree that President Trump did do a peace and he worked hard to make the peace? Because he worked hard to do the peace in the Middle East and everywhere. Do you agree with that?
I appreciate all efforts towards peace, and I shared with President Trump that when I spoke to Trump voters on Hillside Avenue, including one of whom was a pharmacist that spoke about how President Trump's father actually went to that pharmacy not too far from Jamaica Estates, that people were tired of seeing our tax dollars fund endless wars. And I also believe that we have to follow through on the international human rights. And I know that still today those are being violated, and that continues to be work that has to be done no matter where we're speaking of.
Mr. President,
question for Mr.
Thank you, Mr. President. Do you view the mayor-elect as the true leader of the Democrat Party? And do you think Leader Schumer's and Leader Jeffries, have to follow his lead?
Well, look, I hope they have great leaders. This is a man that right now I think is focused on New York City. I really think he has a chance to do a great job. We're going to help him, but I really think he has a chance to do a great job. But I'll let you answer that. You consider yourself the leader of the Democrats? I think it's more appropriate for him.
I consider myself the next mayor of New York City, and I keep my horizons firmly on New York City, and I appreciate the meeting with the president, which focused again on the 5 boroughs and whether New Yorkers could afford to live there.
By the way, being the mayor of New York City is a big deal.
Absolutely.
I always said, one of the things I would love to be someday is the mayor of New York City. Being the mayor of New York, and especially now, because I think you're at really a turning point, one way or the other. It could go great, or it can go in a different direction. And I think you really have a chance to make it great.
Mr. President, you said you love New York City. Mr. Mamdani, does New York City love President Trump?
New York City loves a future that is affordable. And I can tell you that there were more New Yorkers who voted for President Trump in the most recent presidential election because of that focus on cost of living. And I'm looking forward to working together to deliver on that affordability agenda.
I got a lot of votes. One more, go ahead. 1 or 2 more, go ahead.
One more.
The press has eaten this thing up. I've had a lot of meetings with the heads of major countries. Nobody cared. this meeting that you people have gone crazy. You know, outside you have hundreds of people waiting. This is just a small little group. For some reason, the press has found this to be a very interesting meeting. The biggest people in the world, they come over from countries nobody cares. But they did care about this meeting, and it was a great meeting. Go ahead.
Yeah, Mr. President, I was going to ask you exactly that. Why do you think there's so much more, so much excitement around this than even some foreign leaders?
Because I think he's different. All right? I think he's different. And that can be in a very positive way, but I think he's different than, your typical guy, runs, wins, becomes mayor maybe, and nothing exciting. Because he has a chance to really do something great for New York. New York is at a very critical point. And he does need the help of the federal government to really succeed. And we're going to be helping him. But he's different than, your average candidate. He came out of nowhere. I said he has a great campaign manager standing over there. He came out of nowhere. What'd you start off at 1 or 2? And then I watched. I said, who is this guy? He was at 1, then he was at 3, then he was at 5, then he was at 9. Then he went up to 17. I said, that's getting a little bit interesting, right? And then all of a sudden he wins a primary that nobody expected he was going to win. It's a great tribute. I mean, it's an amazing thing that he did.
And I'll just add one thing to what the president said. Is one thing I also appreciated is in our meeting to appreciate a portrait of FDR and the incredible work that was done with the New Deal, and also in thinking about what it can look like when the federal government and New York City government work together to deliver on affordability. It can be transformative.
We have a great portrait of FDR that I found in the vaults that was missing for years. I found it, and I put it up. He's a Democrat, to the best of my knowledge. He's a Democrat. And when the mayor saw that portrait, he said, "Sir, do you mind if I have a picture taken by that portrait?" It's an amazing portrait. I hope the picture comes out good. But it's an amazing portrait in the cabinet room. So he's a big fan of the New Deal, I guess, and of FDR. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. President. You said that you both spoke about crime. Yeah. There are many police officers set to come off the rolls at the end of this year in New York City. Are you going to allow those police to be replaced with police officers, actual cops? And are you going to require that happens? Would there be some consequence if the
Well, I hope
staff...
it happens, but again, that's going to be ultimately the mayor's decision.
What's your answer?
Is that I look forward to delivering public safety with the NYPD, and I've said over the course of our campaign that we have the number of police officers today. They are the ones that's budgeted about 35,000 headcount. And I think the key thing is that we have to make it easier for police to focus on police work, not ask them to respond to 200,000 mental health calls a year.
So is that a reduction from what you're at right now? Are you committing to maintaining the same level of cops?
I've committed over the course of the campaign to maintain the 35,000. That's the headcount that we have through the campaign.
And not replace them with caseworkers, social workers?
No, I've said that's the headcount that we want. What we need to do is make sure they can focus on serious crime.
And he just retained a great police commissioner, I believe, right?
Yes, we did, Commissioner Fish.
If the newspapers are correct.
That one they're correct about.
He retained, I think, somebody that is she's a good friend of some of the people in my family, of Ivanka, and they say she's really good, really competent, and he just retained her, so that's a good sign.
Mr. President, are there still topics that you see the two of you disagreeing on in the future, and do you think you'll have more meetings like this?
There will be topics that we disagree on. I think we'll probably come to a conclusion, and ultimately, he'll convince me, or I'll convince him. It's for the good of New York. Ultimately, it's for the good of New York. I don't care about affiliations or parties or anything else. I want to see if this city could be unbelievable, if he could be a spectacular success, I'd be very happy.
Do you think you guys will meet more in the future, too?
Too?
Do you think you'll meet again in the future, throughout the administration?
I think we will. I hope we do. I enjoyed the meeting. We had a great meeting. Please.
Mr. President, Republican Elise Stefanik has campaigned multiple times by calling Zohran Mamdani a jihadist. Do you think you're standing next to a jihadist right now in the Oval Office?
No, I don't, but she's out there campaigning, and, you say things sometimes in a campaign.
Isn't that sort of
She's a very capable person, but you'd really have to ask her about that, but I don't particularly. I think I met with a man who's a very rational person. I met with a man who really wants to see New York be great again. And I can say again, because New York was great. When I came down to Washington initially, the city was so hot. It was doing great. We were having some telltale signs of problems. We had a mayor that was not doing a great job, but still, it was moving along, and it went bad. It really went, pretty bad. And he can, I think it's been at lower points, but it went pretty bad. I think he can bring it back. Now, the question is, will he bring it back all the way? Will he bring it back greater than ever before, which is, I guarantee, that's his wish. I think he wants to make it greater than ever before. And if he can, we'll be out there cheering. I'll be cheering for him. Okay? Thank you very much, everybody.
You chose not to answer the question about the synagogue protest.
And that was President Trump with NYC Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani in a post-meeting press conference. And taking reporter questions, it seems like the relationship between President Trump and Zohran Mamdani is definitely friendlier than before. President Trump saying that on a number of topics, they actually agreed on it, surprising President Trump, saying that he will probably actually surprise a lot of conservatives as well. Okay, next. President Trump suggests he's giving Ukraine 6 days to accept a new U.S. brokered peace deal. The agreement would include concessions from Ukraine giving up territory currently occupied by Russia. NTD's international correspondent Arian Pazdar has the latest on the fast-developing peace process.
President Trump suggesting Thanksgiving is the deadline for Ukraine to accept an American brokered peace deal. Trump was on the Brian Kilmeade show on Friday talking about the issue.
So is next Thursday the deadline that you gave, a loose deadline for Ukraine?
Well, we have, I've had a lot of deadlines, but if things are working well, you tend to extend the deadlines. But Thursday is, we think, an appropriate time.
A Ukrainian lawmaker and the Associated Press published a 28-point proposal. If agreed to, Ukraine would receive firm security guarantees, while its still armed forces would be capped at 600,000. The country would formally pledge to not join NATO. In return, NATO would codify that it will never admit Ukraine or station troops there. It also outlines territorial agreements recognizing Crimea, Luhansk and Donetsk as de facto Russia. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky issuing a stern warning on Friday, suggesting that ending the conflict will come at a cost in any of the current scenarios.
Now Ukraine may find itself facing a very difficult choice, either the loss of dignity or the risk of losing a key partner, either the difficult 28 points or an extremely difficult winter, the most difficult, and further risks.
Zelensky also announced that he spoke with Vice President J.D. Vance on Friday, saying, "We managed to cover a lot of the details of the American side's proposal for ending the war, and we're working to make the path forward dignified and truly effective." Russian President Vladimir Putin says the U.S. plan could be the basis of a resolution of the conflict. But he added that if Kiev turns down the proposal, then Russian forces will advance further. Arian Pazdar, NTD News.
France's top general Fabien Madon ignites a political row after warning citizens may face sacrifices if Russia tests NATO. Analysts argue the threat is exaggerated, while Europe watches closely as the U.S. pressures Kyiv on a peace deal. NTD international correspondent David Revez reports from Paris.
France's new chief of defense, General Fabien Madon, has ignited a major row after urging mayors to prepare citizens for the possibility of future conflict with Russia. His message was blunt. France, he said, must be ready to accept suffering, shift its economy toward defense production, and even face the risk of losing its children if Moscow challenges NATO. Mandon, appointed earlier this year, had already told Parliament that France must be ready within 3 or 4 years for a possible shock involving Russia. But the uproar highlights deep divisions inside France over how real the threat actually is. This reaction follows other measures that have raised public questions, such as the government's plan to distribute a 72-hour survival kit by the end of the year. According to President of Centers for European Studies Rodrigo Ballester, this aligns with previous stances from both France and the EU, which have been warning about the threat Russia poses to Europe.
It's the rhetoric of some countries in the West, notably Macron, for example, Mark Rutte, who is the Secretary General of NATO, that there is a risk of Russian invasion on Western Europe. and in Europe in general. I think this is total nonsense. I mean, we can see that the Russians are already struggling in Ukraine. It's shocking to see that France is overplaying the Russian threat. It doesn't make sense, again, to call for these Russian threats, to overplay this Russian threat when actually there are other threats in the European Union that are much more real.
Meanwhile, European leaders are concerned as Washington pressures Kiev to accept a peace deal requiring the Donbass and major military cuts, which many in the EU view as near capitulation. EU Commission President Ursula von der Leyen said today that the US plan must be made with Ukraine and Europe. President Volodymyr Zelensky warns Ukrainians that the coming days could be one of the most difficult moments since the invasion began. He says he's ready for honest work with the United States, but will not accept terms that undermine Ukraine's dignity, sovereignty, or territorial integrity. David Vives, NTD News, Paris.
The release of hundreds of illegal immigrants detained in Chicago has been temporarily halted by a federal appeals court. And the Department of Homeland Security announces the arrest over 24 suspected gang members at an underground Texas nightclub. NTD correspondent Jason Blair reports.
A federal appeals court has temporarily halted the release of nearly 450 illegal immigrants arrested in the Chicago area during a large-scale Border Patrol operation in Illinois. A lower court judge had ordered their release after ruling that the individuals did not have final removal orders. The Trump administration successfully appealed, arguing that the lower court's ruling contained legal errors that could harm public safety and immigration enforcement. The suspects must remain in custody until the legal case plays out. A full hearing is scheduled for December 2nd. ICE and FBI Texas have announced the arrest of 27 suspected Tren de Aragua gang members at a nightclub in San Antonio. In total, the operation resulted in the arrest of 150 illegal immigrants, as well as the seizure of cocaine, 3 firearms, and about $35,000 in cash. The Assistant Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security says, thanks to the brave work of DHS law enforcement and our federal partners, 150 illegal aliens, including 27 suspected Tren de Aragua gang members, are off our streets. Under President Trump and Secretary Noem, DHS is dismantling criminal gangs and stopping dangerous drugs from pouring into American neighborhoods. The DHS says 2 of the apprehended suspects are under investigation for human smuggling and money laundering, and 1 is under investigation for cocaine trafficking. Also in Texas, the DHS announces that in 6 weeks, ICE arrested 3,593 criminal illegal immigrants in the Houston area, including child pornographers, gang members, and murderers. Texas also has the country's second highest illegal immigrant population and the state with the most ICE arrests. Statistics say that 1 in 4 arrests made by ICE happen in the Lone Star State. Jason Blair, NTD News.
The State Department has ordered U.S. embassies to report the human rights and public safety implications of mass migration. The department posted the announcement on X. The post read, quote, "Mass migration poses an existential threat to Western civilization and undermines the stability of key American allies." In a separate post, the State Department said U.S. officials will examine policies in Western nations that are lenient toward migrant crime and human rights abuses. The department added that it will scrutinize Western countries that, quote, "create two-tiered systems that prioritize migrants at the expense of their own citizens." Another candidate has entered California's 2026 governor's race. Democratic Congressman Eric Swalwell aims to succeed Governor Gavin Newsom, making the announcement during a late-night TV appearance. We have more news after this break.
Shop the Design Studio by Mathis Home for Black Friday savings on luxury designer furniture. Get factory authorized savings on all the top brands with heirloom quality pieces for every room in your house. Choose from our incredible in-stock selection or let our complimentary design staff help you create a custom look to match your own personal style for less than you ever imagined. Get unmatched luxury at the lowest prices of the year through Black Friday weekend at the Design Studio by Mathis Home.
Shenyun Creations, the streaming platform from Shenyun, featuring world-class dance, past programs, and all original music. Masterclasses, behind the scenes, comedy, and more. Explore shenyuncreations.com.
I was a quarterback at Hardaway High School, college first round draft pick. On and off the field, we were taught to not show any signs of weakness. During the football season, I would stop eating, but I didn't know I was depressed. I thought that something was wrong with me. For 20 plus years was physical. We didn't have any education behind what mental health was. I started to learn it starts here first. If this is together, I'll be better as a father, as a man, and as a husband. Put the importance on your mental health. I'm not scared to talk about it anymore. The first tool is therapy. The second one is positive self-talk. And then journaling, putting your thoughts on paper. We have to redefine what being a strong man is and heal, love your mind.
£6 prescription glasses from Select Specs are always great value. There are no offer codes or first-time customers only. Anyone can buy them, anytime. And you can upgrade to Select Specs Express for next-day delivery. And with deferred payments, you can spread the cost.
See now, pay later with Select Specs £6 specs. Next day delivery and deferred payment options available at selectspecs.com/£6.
Is deep sea fish oil really healthy? Due to pollution in the oceans, most fish contain heavy metal elements and radioactive substances. That's why it's so important to choose a pure source of omega-3. Puritan Green Vegetable Omega-3 is made from purslane and perilla seeds, which are rich in nutrients and minerals. It effectively improves brain power and is beneficial to the heart's health. Puritan Green Vegetable Omega-3. Eat 2 a day and you'll feel brand new.
Representative Eric Swalwell is officially jumping into California's 2026 governor's race, declaring his run during a late-night TV appearance. He says he wants to be a protector for the state, focusing on issues like housing and affordability. NTD's Christina Corona tells us more.
Democratic Congressman Eric Swalwell made a surprise announcement on Jimmy Kimmel Live Thursday, declaring he's running for California governor in 2026.
This great state needs a fighter and a protector, someone who will bring prices down, lift wages up. I came here tonight, Jimmy, to tell you and your audience that I'm running to be the next governor of California.
His announcement adds another contender hoping to succeed Governor Gavin Newsom when his term ends next year. Swalwell is highlighting his national security experience and work on President Trump's first impeachment.
No one will keep Californians safer than I will. No one. Nancy Pelosi selected me for the Intelligence Committee and to help lead the impeachment of a president. Californians will never bend the knee.
Swalwell says he wants to reshape California's economy, saying the state should be a place where families can afford to work, live, and buy a home.
California is the 4th largest economy in the world. So shouldn't we be a state where you can take your first job, have your first kid, and buy your first home in the same decade? And one where you can fill that home with food and flood it with light. I'm Eric Swalwell.
Swalwell joined several Democrats already in the race, including Javier Becerra, former Congresswoman Katie Porter, and Tom Steyer, along with Republicans Steve Hilton and Sheriff Chad Bianco. California voters will pick their next governor in November 2026. Christina Corona, NTD News.
Congress has until mid-December to come up with a proposal to address the COVID-era Affordable Care Act expiring subsidies. But there is yet a formal bill to consider. Our Washington correspondent Luis Eduardo Martinez has more.
Lawmakers have left the Capitol for the Thanksgiving holidays without congressional leadership being set on a specific proposal to address the expiring Affordable Care Act healthcare subsidies. The Trump administration has made it a center focus for the administration for the coming weeks.
Promising the president is laser focused on this. It's the main thing I talk with them about. Congress as well is all over this. We have got to find solutions that don't just work at the end of this year, but work for years to come. And I do want to come back to this theme. We have ideas that will also drop the actual cost of care by putting pressure, downward pressure on what we're paying for medications. And that's probably a very good example.
Republican Senator Rick Scott from Florida proposed a bill to make the ACA subsidies a direct payment to consumers for them to choose their health care instead of having the government pay insurance companies directly.
We're not going to repeal Obamacare. We're going to fix Obamacare. You know, I'm not suggesting we change the structure because I think we can drive down the cost by giving people options. We do it in everything. We've done it in everything else, but you do have to protect pre-existing conditions.
A bipartisan group of lawmakers in the House of Representatives have proposed a bill to extend the ACA subsidies for 2 years while also phasing out subsidies to families making more than $200,000 a year.
We're looking at all the options on the table. We want to bring down costs. I'm not sure throwing more money at a bad broken system is the solution. And if there was going to be an extension of the subsidies, there'd have to be very serious reforms on it because it is not doing the job and it's making it worse.
But House Democratic leadership is pushing for a 3-year clean extension of the ACA subsidies, a proposal that even moderate Republicans call dead on arrival.
You want to get something that is actually done, you need to do something that will have bipartisan.
You can ask me the question. You can ask me the question. I'll provide the answer.
Answer the question instead of going back.
I'll provide the answer. No. I'm providing an answer in order to provide context.
It's important context to make me realize that I don't think you want to get a deal done. I think this is something where you'd like to see the rates go higher and allow the Republicans to hang themselves with that. Is that the answer?
That's absolutely a ridiculous assertion. And really, shame
3 years
on you.
Is not going to get passed. So what do you do?
Shame on you for saying that.
Senate Republicans have promised to hold a vote on an ACA subsidies bill before mid-December. That gives lawmakers around 2 weeks to reach an agreement on a bill before the subsidies expire at the end of the year. Reporting from Washington, D.C., Luis Eduardo Martinez, NTD News.
Missouri is ramping up efforts to seize China-owned properties in the U.S. The state is seeking help from the Trump administration to collect a $25 billion court judgment tied to the COVID pandemic. It's one that Beijing refused to recognize. NTD's Tiffany Meyer has the report.
According to Missouri's Attorney General on Wednesday, the state is asking the U.S. State Department to let Beijing know that it plans to pursue Chinese-owned assets. Her office is putting together a list of targets, focusing on properties entirely or partially owned by the Chinese regime on American soil. Missouri's lawsuit accuses China of hoarding personal protective equipment, including masks, medical gowns, and gloves during the early stages of COVID-19. This hoarding caused widespread harm to Americans, including deaths. The lawsuit also adds that China harmed Missouri and its residents by driving up the cost of health care and emergency response. A federal judge initially dismissed the lawsuit in 2022, saying Missouri couldn't sue China. But an appeals court later revived one part of the case, the allegation that Beijing hoarded protective equipment. When Chinese officials didn't respond, the judge accepted Missouri's damage estimate of more than $8 billion and tripled it under federal law. He then added nearly 4% interest, bringing the total to roughly $25 billion. China's Foreign Affairs Ministry says its actions during the pandemic aren't subject to U.S. law and does not recognize the ruling.
Meanwhile, another state has successfully sued China over COVID-19. In May, Mississippi won its $200 billion lawsuit, and now the big question is how the state plans to collect the money. China's war on religion front and center at a congressional hearing. Representative Chris Smith sat down with NTD's Steve Lance to share what he has uncovered and what Congress is doing about it.
Pervasive use of torture in China. I've had numerous hearings on it. If you're arrested, you will be tortured, and you will be, hurt horribly, not just through deprivation of food and water and the like. They'll use cattle prods.
You can catch the full interview tonight on Capitol Report with Steve Lance at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Coming up, we discussed the meeting between President Trump and New York City Mayor-elect Mamdani that took place earlier at the White House. After this break.
That first time seeing my son, I feel like my life did a 180. I was already trying to change my perspective of life and really just be a father figure that I never had. Being present is the most important part. I'm still growing every day, becoming a better version of myself. to be the better mirror for my son. I mean, he's just growing. He's becoming his own person. Man, first I saw him dance, bro, he brings the vibes, you know what I'm saying? He brings the party no matter what. He really a definition of like why he loves somebody. And I love him to the death of me.
My name's Stacy, I'm 57, and I was adopted in 2020.
We were adopted in 2019.
And we were adopted in 2021.
We had a house, and it sounds crazy, but it wasn't a home. The one thing that Jake and Emma brought is it became a home.
When I met Dakota, he had just turned 14.
You weren't there for the first this and the first that. I missed the first words, but we got a lot of other firsts.
Watching her say, oh my God, I cannot believe I got my license. And she's like, I passed. And I'm like, girl.
See them grow. It is.
They chose to love us. They didn't have to. They chose us. Family.
You and you. Kids in the middle.
What I thought was a complete life was nowhere near complete, but it is now.
Learn about adopting a teen from foster care. You can't imagine the reward. Visit adoptuskids.org.
Being a cowboy, I don't know anything different from when I was 3 or 4 years old. I did tough things. I thought everybody needed to do tough things, and if you didn't, I didn't have time for it. I had a very successful career at a very young age, and life was fast. I was preparing physically. I wasn't doing anything mentally on the inside. And then I got hurt. I wanted to be better as a person, and I really dug into mental health. I start my day with 20-minute workouts. I live life 8 seconds at a time. Horses are so therapeutic. They know what you're feeling. When you're nervous, they're nervous. You won't say it back, but we're pals. I take a lot of responsibility in taking care of my kids, my family, and being there for them. You're gonna have tough days. Everybody does. Find a place to stop and just breathe. Love your mind.
Now, for analysis of the Trump-Mamdani meeting, joining us on the panel is Angie Wong, Republican strategist and columnist, as well as Robin Byro, Democratic strategist and former Obama regional campaign director. So first of all, thank you both for joining us today. Angie, I would like to start with you. So we were streaming the meeting between President Trump, actually the post-meeting press conference, and it seemed to me they were much friendlier to each other than previously. So Angie, just give us your first thoughts of the tone of the press conference after this meeting.
Yes, this was the best possible outcome you can imagine for two people with such opposite ends of political ideology to come together at the Oval Office to have a real discussion. And I think President Trump said it just right, is that they both have one commonality, which is to protect New York, to make sure that New York City thrives as a city. That is our world city. If New York City falls, the rest of the country falls. So I'm very happy to see that they had a very productive meeting and that things are going to move smoothly going forward. I think both men got something out of this meeting. Of course, we were privy to the finer details, but it looks as though they both walked away very happy and with a working relationship. That must be a thorn to some of the Democrat side, but I like this. This is exactly how a president should behave, and this is how a mayor-elect should behave as well.
So Robin, let me go to you. Your thoughts on Democratic socialist Zohran Mamdani and his meeting with President Trump today?
First of all, I'm glad that the president took this meeting because he didn't have to. Mamdani requested this meeting. So kudos to the president for accepting this meeting. But I want to say that to his heart, now President Trump now lives in Florida, right? West Palm Beach, but he's a New Yorker to his heart. He doesn't want to see New York fail. His businesses are located in New York, as somebody who was a good friend of mine reminded me. So, it's in his best interest also for New York to prosper. It's in all of America's best interest. And I thought that they were going to have a cordial meeting, so it seems that they did. At the end of the day, they're both politicians. They have to do right by their people and their constituents. The president is the president of us all. That includes the people of New York. He doesn't want to do any harm to the people of New York just because they elected a Democratic Socialist for mayor. So, you know, I'm hopeful. And Mamdani had the biggest to lose here because the threat was that President Trump was going to pull finances and funding from New York had he been elected. So let's hope that that doesn't come to fruition. Don.
So, Angie, Trump said he wants to support Mamdani, not heard him during this press conference after the meeting. I have a clip here with me that I'd like to have you guys take a look, the comments that Trump made about Mamdani. All right.
I hope they have great leaders. This is a man that right now I think is focused on New York City. I really think he has a chance to do a great job. We're going to help him, but I really think he has a chance to do a great job.
So, you know, Angie, I was surprised, and President Trump said he was surprised as well on the number of things they actually agree on. So how do you see President Trump and Mamdani working together? Because in addition to the agreements, they also mentioned some disagreements as well, and saying perhaps there were a number of them. So how are they going to work around the obstacles posed by their differing political ideologies?
Well, I think the key word that President Trump says is we're going to help him, which really says a lot. It goes miles here because we know that New York City is heavily dependent on federal dollars, including the housing projects, transportation. There's a lot of crossover between New York and Washington, D.C. So I think Zohran Mamdani knew that going in. He cannot fulfill a 4-year administration without the help of the federal government. So he went hand in hand to President Trump and did the right thing, which is reach out to President Trump, speak with him, unlike other blue city mayors who completely reject the Trump administration and try to keep them out of their cities. He's actually embracing it. It shows leadership skills that I wasn't prepared to see in this 34-year-old, I got to tell you. But I think he really has what it takes now. And I today have gained a bit of respect for him after having bashed him for many, many months over the campaign trail. So I really like this look. Ultimately, he's doing what Daniel Lurie, the San Francisco mayor, is doing, which is speaking with Trump, having an open dialogue with Trump, maybe even having a back channel with Trump and working together with Trump so that none of this nonsense that we're seeing in other blue cities, like rejecting ICE federal agents coming in, we're not going to see any of that. It's going to be an open line, which means that New York City can actually prosper. I like the whole thing.
Okay, so Robin, I still want to know if there are differing opinions between these two men, how are they going to approach it?
They have to, at the end of the day, do what's best for their people. Like I said, he's the president of the entirety of the United States, and Mamdani is mayor-elect of all of New York City. So they have to see where they can work together. Obviously they had major differences, specifically when it comes to funding some of the programs that Mayor-elect Mamdani wants to fund there in the city, like free public transport, for example, and some of the programs that he had with regard to food insecurity. Those are pretty radical programs that he proposed. But there are less radical things that they can actually work on together, some of the infrastructure things. New York City still has sort of a crumbling infrastructure that needs to be dealt with. And they have to find commonalities where they can work together. I was arch nemesis for a long time of Dick Cheney, who we just laid to rest yesterday. But at the end of the day, he and I, through debate and public discourse, found areas where we agreed and became unlikely friends. And I see that possibly even happening here. They may end up finding areas where they can be friendly to one another.
So Angie, the word affordability came up a number of times during this press conference, and Trump mentioned that making NYC affordable is actually a key issue that he sees eye to eye with Mamdani on. So I have another clip here with me. Let's take a look.
I think both President Trump and I We are very clear about our positions and our views, and what I really appreciate about the president is that the meeting that we had focused not on places of disagreement, which there are many, and also focused on the shared purpose that we have in serving New Yorkers. And frankly, that is something that could transform the lives of the 8.5 million people who are currently struggling under a cost of living crisis, with 1 in 4 living in poverty.
So Angie, you said you have more respect now for Mamdani. How significant could this shared goal of affordability be as a springboard, if you will, for their work together? How is this going to impact New York City?
You know, it's great that these two men are speaking, because I think they're trying to understand each other through words, and words that sometimes clash. I'll hear one thing, but then my Democrat colleague might hear a separate thing altogether, because that's just how far apart we've been and how divided we've been for many, many years now. So the word affordability, I believe that Trump is really trying to get a grasp of what that actually means. For him, it could mean the big, beautiful bill, and oh, well, I've already solved that problem. But the reality is, he's also a New Yorker, born and raised in Queens, and he understands that it's getting very difficult. You're priced out as a young person, a young American. You can't buy into the American dream anymore. It's just too expensive. And sadly, from the time you graduate from college, you're already in the red. You start your adult life in the red. So I think President Trump is actually trying to understand from Zohran Mamdani, who is a young Gen Zer, to understand what affordability actually means to a young voter. And I think this is a great period where although they clash in ideology, they actually can meet in the middle somewhere to figure out a real solution, because this is a problem that's going to be affecting, I believe, all Americans, especially with the invention of AI and robotics and things taking over future jobs. They're going to have to figure this problem out together.
You know, Robin, Angie raises a great point there. Does affordability mean the same in Trump's mind and Mamdani's mind?
No, Mamdani took a lot of hits on the campaign trail because he lived in a rent-controlled apartment and was only paying $2,300 a month rent, and said that all New Yorkers should be have the ability to get $2,300 a month rent, and called that affordable. Now, to many people, that's actually not affordable. That's not affordable to people right here in the suburbs of Atlanta, I can assure you, for rent. But in New York City, it probably is. So they do have to kind of talk to one another and see what it does mean to actually, be affordable there in the city, because it's going to mean different things to different people. And they're just going to have to come to terms with that. But it's interesting to me that like my colleague here, Angie, I beat up on Mamdani quite a bit, because I really didn't want the Democratic Party to slide toward democratic socialism. And I was worried that the party would use this as a template to take all across the United States for areas like me. I'm talking to you from Atlanta, Georgia. But let's take the good, let's take the good, keep it, and leave the bad, Don.
Okay, Robin, can I follow up on your point? If Mamdani is successful in making, to use Trump's words, New York City great again, what does that mean for the Democratic Party?
That means that they probably will use this as a template for some of our larger cities. And that's fine. It will work in areas like New York City specifically. It'll work in LA, but it won't work in some of the other areas like Northern California, for example. It won't work in the outskirts of the suburbs of Atlanta and throughout Georgia at large. So we can't use this as a one-size-fits-all approach. And that's what I'm telling party leadership. I speak with them daily. I do consulting with the DNC, and I've told them, look, we still have to embrace a 50-state strategy here, and not just 50 states, but look at the cities themselves, because we cannot apply a one-size-fits-all approach. Typically, when the Democratic Party loses, they tend to go more left. They think that they lost because they weren't left enough. That's not going to work here as a one-size-fits-all solution, Don.
Okay, Angie, I'm curious to your thoughts on this as well.
Yeah, well, look, there's so many ways of looking at this, but ultimately we're walking away today with a win for New York City and for all cities. This could be a great model for how, well, local government and federal government work together. And I think that's what President Trump is going to show off now. He's going to show the bright stars of our cities and who is championing them. Like we've had a few, and I think I see how President Trump does this already with congressional members that he likes. He really champions champions people that he enjoys working with, and he shows off how we can work together. And he really, really shows it to the point where you can't really debate him on it, right? So I think New York City is going to be a great model for how cities can look going forward into the next century. We do have problems in our cities beyond crime. Our grocery prices are crazy expensive. Housing is expensive. Now, Zohran Mamdani, he's a dreamer. And I think President Trump even used those words. We're going to help him achieve his dreams, right? Something to that effect. And I like that because he's now not only speaking to New Yorkers, but he's also speaking to young Americans who are all scratching their heads going, how am I going to make this? How am I going to at least reach the achievements that my parents have made? Because it's really difficult to buy in these days. So I think that's the longer goal that I'm looking forward to in these talks. I've long said this is not a meeting between the New York City mayor-elect and the president. This is a meeting between the head of the Republican Party, Donald Trump, and the new face of the Democrat Party, which is Zohran Mamdani. And I think that if we can make those two big parties of America work together, we really do have something great.
Okay, to your point, Angie, you're saying Mamdani is the new face of the Democratic Party and Trump is the leader of the Republican Party. What's interesting here is one point during the post-meeting conference, Trump said a lot of his voters also voted for Mamdani. I found that interesting given the different ideologies shared by each of the men. So can you just give us your reaction on this point?
Yeah, I found that surprising too. I was surprised that someone who would have voted for Trump in 2024 would then vote for Zohran Mamdani in 2025, if not for a referendum on Trump, right? So it doesn't seem like there was a lot of things that were in common, at least with those two elections. So I'd like to see the data a little bit more. I know that in the primary, Zohran Mamdani was heavily voted in by females, Gen Z females. And I just don't see that being the base for Donald Trump, but I could be wrong. I really do need to dive into the data to answer that.
Robin, I think we should wrap up the conversation here today. If you have any final thoughts you'd like to share.
I do. I want to touch on what Angie said. This could be a template on how we need to speak with one another as neighbors. Let's look at one another as neighbors where we agree, not as Democrats and Republicans, but as human beings who have to exist with one another, and let's see where we can work together. I think they set a good example of that today, and we can expand on that.
Well, if I may say, our conversation today also sets a good example. Thank you very much for speaking with us.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay, we're going to take a quick break now, but don't go away. We have more important news coming up right after this short break.
That truly matters for each and every one of us. This is what you've been waiting for. Shen Yun. Get tickets now at shenyun.com.
During high school, I hung with the wrong crowd and I never graduated.
I helped Santiago in many different ways, like all fathers do, because he always wanted to go to college.
I felt a little embarrassed to come back to school, but eventually, once I came here, I knew that it's for a bigger goal.
He was very dedicated, hardworking. He connected with his teachers, he connected with other students. That was one of the key reasons why he was able to keep forging ahead.
It was amazing to see him graduate. This was one thing that meant so much to him, and of course, it meant so much to us too.
With the help of my father and having my son, that was all the motivation that I needed. That support is everything.
Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org.
I'm excited to announce that we're having our biggest 3-in-1 sale ever with a limited edition product, a back-in-stock special, and a closeout deal you won't find anywhere else. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to get our MyPillow bed sheets, only $29.88. Any color, any style, any size, even kings, regular $119.98, only $29.88. Once they're gone for good. How about our My Towels? They're finally back in stock, but not for long. Get a 6-piece My Towel set, regular $69.98, now only $39.98. And for the first time and the only time ever, get our limited edition premium My Pillows. They're made with Giza cotton and designer gusset. Queen $17.98, Kings only $19.98. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to get the best offers ever. Quantities are extremely limited, so order now.
Mix Fix is a custom formulated, full-spectrum organic detox product to achieve better health and overall function. It's not just the longevity of life, but quality of life. There are other products out there, but they lack the quality that Mix Fix provides. Detoxifying your body 3 to 4 times per year may be the single most important thing you can do, and our detox mix was designed specifically to do it and do it right. Just scan the QR code and detox your body today.
Just ahead of self-described Democratic socialist Zohran Mamdani's visit to the White House, the House passed a resolution denouncing socialism. NTD's Washington correspondent Jack Bradley joins us now. Jack, what is the latest from the House floor?
Sure. So Congress just passed a resolution denouncing socialism in all of its forms and the implementation of socialist policies in the U.S. Now, the House approved the resolution by a vote of 285 to 98, with 2 voting present. The resolution comes as New York City Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani, a self-described Democratic socialist, visited the White House to meet with President Donald Trump. Mamdani has proposed several controversial socialist policies during his campaign, like government-run grocery stores and increasing rent controls. But Trump has called Mamdani a communist. And certain communists even have said, like former Soviet Union leader Vladimir Lenin once said, quote, "The goal of socialism is communism." Here are some comments from the floor.
This has nothing to do with political parties. This is a moral vote against an ideology that has destroyed millions and millions of families and murdered more than 100 million lives.
What do socialists stand for? Tax-raising, job-killing policies like defunding the police, shuttering prisons, massive unfunded spending increases, and even government-run grocery stores. Many of Mayor-elect Mamdani's policies are radically at odds with both Democratic Party and American values. After all, socialists aren't Democrats, they're socialists. Democrats are about common sense.
It's true, if you take $1 from Peter and give it to Paul, Paul's $1 richer and Peter is $1 poorer. But what you've really done is to take from both of them $1's worth of incentive to help each other.
Socialism is communism light. Socialism is the first step to communism.
If you want to see the difference between socialism and freedom, just look at the Korean Peninsula at night. South Korea shines with opportunity. North Korea is trapped in darkness.
Now, this legislation opposing socialism in the House was introduced by Florida Congresswoman Maria Salazar, the daughter of Cuban immigrants who fled the communist regime of Fidel Castro. Now, there were 63 co-sponsors on this bill, but they singled out Venezuela. Venezuela is a once thriving democracy that was taken over by a socialist regime. The country now has the highest rate of inflation in the world. Take a look.
Look at Venezuela, nearby country. Self-proclaimed socialists. They destroyed the richest country in South America. They implemented these government-run supermarkets, and they have empty shelves. Venezuelans lost an average of 20 pounds due to starvation.
And the Venezuelans would make fun of the Cubans 25 years ago, saying that it was impossible for that to happen in Venezuela. They had the largest reserves of oil in the world. They were a very strong democracy. They were not an island. It's time to denounce socialism in this country, because just like it happened to the Venezuelans, It could happen to the Americans.
Now, with the passage of this in the House, a concurrent resolution denouncing socialism is in the Senate, and it's introduced by Florida Republican Senator Rick Scott. Don, back to you.
Okay, Jack, thank you. Pope Leo tells about 15,000 U.S. youth to use AI responsibly and not for homework.
Your education, make the most of this time. AI can process information quickly, but it cannot replace human intelligence. And don't ask it to do your homework for you. It cannot offer real wisdom. It misses a very important human element. AI will not judge between what is truly right and wrong.
Leo, the first U.S. Pope, spoke for about 40 minutes on live video from the Vatican to a National Catholic Youth Conference in Indianapolis, Indiana. He answered questions about the Catholic faith and gave advice on how to make friends in school. A recent report says younger adults are now the most common targets of Black Friday scams. Scammers are using social media and messaging apps to reach Gen Z and millennials. Experts say that Black Friday has become one of the riskiest times for scams. Shoppers are encouraged to be extra careful during the holiday season. New AI tools allow fraudsters to copy real voices and writing styles. These realistic messages make fake offers much harder to recognize. One of the best ways to stay safe is to visit retailer websites directly. Avoid clicking on links sent through emails, texts, or social media ads. Be cautious if a message tries to rush you or create a sense of urgency. Extremely low prices can be a sign that the deal is fake. Paying with a credit card offers better fraud protection than a debit card. Digital wallets can also add another layer of security. And avoid shopping on public Wi-Fi. Using strong passwords as well and two-factor authentication helps protect accounts. In Kansas City, nonprofits and local businesses are working to provide a Thanksgiving turkey to families in need. This holiday season, the community and its spirit of giving are helping to put food on the table. NTD's Andrew Thomas has more on their efforts.
The Kansas City chapter of Slow Food USA is stepping up for Thanksgiving. Founder Jasper Mirabelle Jr. was happy to make a donation to buy turkeys for locals in need.
So we donated $5,000 and Max secured 300 turkeys for those who are going to need it, who are going to have a turkey on their plate this Thanksgiving. Doesn't get any better. Makes you feel good.
The donation went to Canby's Markets, which purchased the turkeys from a Kansas City-based grocer that was willing to help out. Canby founder Maxfield Kaniger said the establishment was quick to join the effort.
He was able to get us 300 turkeys without breaking a sweat. And I loved his response was actually, how many do you need? And I said, how many can I get? And he's like, however many you need, I will make work. And that's the kind of response you love to see.
Kaniger says his organization has been distributing tons of food, literally. Being able to provide Thanksgiving birds has made the effort even more rewarding.
We've been averaging about 10,000 pounds of food a day going out to different local organizations. And to be able to add these turkeys into the mix really is wonderful.
Andrew Thomas, NTD News.
A trip through New York City's crowded subway system usually offers a pungent mix of odors. But along one platform inside Grand Central Terminal this holiday season, the air might smell of vanilla and fresh pine. Bath & Body Works is using a new advertising campaign to share a scent. The fragrance is being released on the 42nd Street shuttle train platform through November. It estimates that 20 to 30 pounds of fragrance will be dispersed by the end of the month when the campaign ends. The Metropolitan Transportation Authority said this is the first ad campaign like this in the transit system. They hope it will help bring in more revenue. The retail store's chief marketing officer said that the retail chain chose Fresh Balsam for the campaign. It's one of the brand's most iconic holiday scents and a long-running seasonal favorite. Thank you for watching NTD Newsroom. We'll be taking a quick break now, but we'll be back with more news. I'm Don Ma, and remember, NTD Evening News is at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific.